but we will do our best.
Welcome everybody. Greg Peterson here, and I'm here with Miss Janice for our fruit tree launch party.
Better name, Greg. Much better name.
Much better name. This is our third year doing it on Zoom, and either our 6th or 7th year doing it live, because we did them at North Phoenix Baptist Church, I think for 4 years before we started doing them on Zoom. So welcome everybody.
Welcome.
My name is Greg Peterson. I used to live at a place in Phoenix called the Urban Farm. I now live with my, you can see behind me, that's my front yard in Asheville, North Carolina. That's a long story, and we're loving it here. It gets, since we arrived on May 20th, well, we actually arrived on April 22nd, but since I started watching the rain gauge and tracking the rain, we've had almost 18 inches of rain since then. So like in 4 months. So it's a way different water harvesting issue here than it is in Phoenix.
Right, right. Well, here in Phoenix, we're talking about growing fruit trees. Even though you're back east now, you still have a lot of experience and wisdom to share. So we are grateful that you are still willing to help us run us here in the Valley and run the fruit tree program. So absolutely. Thank you.
You absolutely bet. And I will be seeing you guys on lot here starting on September 22nd for the citrus round of our process. So I'll still come back in September, October for citrus, and in January for deciduous. So you'll still see me on the lot.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So, all right.
Well, let's talk about what we're doing today.
What are we doing today?
Well, you've done a really good job of lining up some great presenters with some amazing stories. We got 2 amazing yards and examples. And so I'm excited that you're going to be sharing those.
Yeah.
And I've been focusing on the nutrition.
Yeah. Oh, perfect. Perfect. Yeah. Jolene Cootie, a longtime friend, she has posted on Facebook pictures of her yard 10 years ago and pictures of it today. And it's like, oh, that would make a great presentation. So we've got her. And then Kristen Parsons,
yes,
same idea, before and after. So we got to, the theme pretty much today is before and after, and getting your trees fed.
What you're seeing on the screen is our schedule. We're going to try and stick to this as close as possible. We're going to start off with Jolene's presentation on a decade into a food forest. Mm-hmm. She's awesome because she wants to teach others and give like a presentation place where people can see. Same thing with Kristen, cultivated food forests. Beautiful. Greg's been talking about that. Then around 10:25, we're going to jump into fruit tree levels of care. This is a new concept here at the Urban Farm that we're trying to explain. It's not really a new concept, but maybe a way to simplify and help it be a little bit easier to understand.
Thank you, Janice. Janice created this one, by the way.
It's because I overcomplicate things and then I want to simplify it, and that's what this is. And then at 10:45, another one of those overcomplications that are being simplified is foliar feeding and fruit tree nutrition. And we have 2 amazing men who have been so supportive of our program. Mm-hmm. They are just super supportive with products that we can believe in. That is going to be the boys from High Creations, Anthony and Derek's, and just can't wait for that one. We just can't say enough about that program. And then at 11:10, Greg's going to come in and give an update on the citrus program. There's so much going on with that.
There is, and there's amazing shortages of citrus and pots and all kinds of stuff. So we lucked out this year. We decided to jump in right away and place an order for citrus. Normally we take orders and then place our orders. So we've pre-ordered trees and have a certain amount of them that we've been told we're getting. So yay.
Yeah. And then at 11:40, we're going to try and answer some of your ordering questions. We also have another really good aspect that we're going to be talking about shortly on how we can work with that. And then 12 o'clock, we should be done. And if you're still here and you haven't seen this video, stick around. We've got a bonus. What is backyard orcharding? And that is basically anybody who's got a fruit tree in their backyard. Find out what that's about.
And that's Tom Spellman, who is our rock star representative from Dave Wilson Nursery. So,
and a mentor for you for a while.
For a couple of decades almost. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
All right.
Fantastic. Thank you for that, Miss Janice. It makes it, I'll tell you what, since Janice came on board 6 or 7 years ago, life is a whole lot simpler around the fruit tree program because she manages so many of our things. So
there are days that you don't say that, but then the next day you're like, okay, just you manage that, Janice. I'll do with this.
There you go. So we're going to start
with you.
We're going to start with our peach video. It's a 2-minute peach video, and then we'll jump in. So let's go ahead, TW. Oh, we also have TW, Taylor, in the background. She is running all of our videos. So yay, thank you, TW.
Yeah, and we've got a couple of the people in the back, in another background, and I'll tell you about that in a minute.
One of the things that I love here at the Urban Farm, and one of the things that I love to do, is plant fruit trees. The reason being is you plant fruit trees once and you get fruit for dozens or hundreds of years. I have 2 citrus trees in the backyard that were planted in the 1920s. That's 100 years ago, and I get fruit off of them every year. This happens to be my favorite tree. It's a peach tree. It's called the Desert Gold Peach. It is an amazing, juicy peach, hugely prolific. It will make so many peaches, you won't know what to do with them all, I promise. They absolutely will make your toes tingle and probably splash down the front of you. Enjoy. Oh. You got to get yourself one of these. Oh my God. That's heaven.
That absolutely is my favorite peach, and it's an amazing one. We actually bring in 200 of those every year and always sell out. So yay. So Janice has done a really, really great job of coordinating our classes. And let me just tell you a quick story. In 1999, I decided I wanted to plant 500 fruit trees in Phoenix. So I took on doing that. I looked at local nurseries and asked, if they'd sell me 50 or 100 trees, and it was like, no, you can buy them at full retail. So I started looking around, and I found Dave Wilson Nursery. Dave Wilson Nursery is a tree grower. They grow almost 11 million trees a year for sale. They're up in the Sacramento area, and they grow some really great product. We only bring in the product that is specific to the low desert, because one of the things that I discovered early on is that you can go into most nurseries in every big box store, and they will sell you a fruit tree that isn't climate appropriate or season appropriate for our low desert, and they'll never make fruit. So over the years, my first classes in 2000 and 2001 were in my living room, and some of them are an iteration of what you're going to see today and in the following weeks. Been updated many times, and so we have put together 5 classes for you. All the education is free. We do ask if you want to make a donation along the way. We greatly appreciate that, but all the classes are free. And then you can also buy fruit trees from us. So what classes do we have, Ms. Janice?
Well, you know, you've been teaching classes for quite some time, and your classes have been updated and altered, and you keep adding more information. And so these two classes are the classes that we have that help people choose their trees and maybe choose what goes with their trees to be able to have success. So you've been teaching for quite some time that there's some things that people need to know before they choose a fruit tree, especially if they've had no experience growing fruit trees. Amen. So that's your first class.
Yeah, that's chill hours, rootstock, ripening times. It's all that stuff that you have to know that. Unless, of course, you just buy trees from us and then you know that they're the right ones. But this is data about what you need to know before you buy your fruit trees.
See, our goal is to help you understand and be confident in the decisions that you're making. So that's what this is about, what to know before you buy a fruit tree, especially if you're buying a deciduous tree, because deciduous trees struggle in our valley unless you have certain kinds. So that's what that class is for. What supplies do I need? This has evolved over time because our climate is changing. And so what do you need to do and how much do you need to spend to make sure that that money that you spent on a fruit tree is worthwhile? This is what that class is about. So those two classes are going to help you choose your trees and your supplies to make sure that you have a good investment. Okay.
Next slide.
The next slide is about taking care of, planting and taking care of your trees. So Greg has been teaching a class about planting, watering, and fertilizing. I get a little spot in that one about fertilizing and talking about that. It's an updated class, evolving as we learn more, as we get more information from our mentors. It's up to date with what we're dealing with now. So this is a really good class.
And one of the big things that we cover in that is where and how to plant your trees, because if you plant it next to a block wall and gravel, good luck. So we cover all that in that class.
Right. And having conversations with people in our general store or people who come on the lot and ask questions, especially when they're trying to figure out what all they're doing. Sometimes people kind of get this glazed over look. It's too much. So we're trying to simplify that. And one of the things that I've worked on doing is to create kind of a cheat sheet so you can figure out where to put your attention. And that's leveling up your fruit tree care. And I've broken it down into 4 levels of care. Number 1 is not our level. We have the top 3 levels. And then we have 6 areas of care. So talking about what those 4 levels are, we're going to talk about that and how to apply those. That's in leveling up your fruit tree care. And we'll talk about those levels today. And then there's always questions. And one of the amazing things about the Urban Farm program is we are here to, our commitment to your success is there, and we want to be available. And by making ourselves available, and so that your questions can get answered along with other people's and you can hear the same answers, we do that. So we have a couple of days dedicated to just Q&A.
Well, I don't know of any other nursery in the world, I'm going to say, that actually will take pictures of your fruit trees that are struggling or that are thriving and, answer you back. And that's one of the things that we do.
Yeah. All right, next slide. Greg loves to do this. He's been doing this for a while, giving away things at his launch parties. That's our new name for this, by the way. This is a launch party.
Launch party, yeah.
So at the kickoff, we've been giving things away. What you can do today, right now, is go to urbanfarm.org/kickoffdrawing. Go ahead and put your name and email in there. This is the only way that you can get your name in for the drawing for the giveaways today. We're going to do multiple times during this live event. We're going to go ahead and pick names. It gets up. I have a random generator that'll help me do this. And we've got a bunch of stuff. We've got trees, we've got consults, we've got books, we've got some stuff to give away. So go ahead, take a moment, go register for that, and we will be pulling your names in a little bit.
And the link is in, oh, thanks TW. She also put it in there. I
thanks,
put it
TW.
in the chat. Yeah. Cool.
Next. All right. So a quick link to go to our shopping cart. When you're ready to go shopping, you can do that today. We will be talking about our specials that we have shortly. We have a couple of specials that if you spend a certain amount of money and put in the code, you can get a discount. But one of the great things we have is sometimes it's a little bit confusing to find what you're looking for in our shopping cart. If you call that line, we've got 2 people on hold that are ready to help you out. We've got Bob, my husband, thank you very much.
Thanks, Bob.
Is sitting there waiting for calls, and Hannah, my blessed daughter-in-law, who has been a cashier at the lot. Both of them are familiar with the basics. They don't diagnose tree problems, but they can definitely make sure that an order gets processed.
Yes.
So if you're not getting what you need on the website, you can call them and they'll be available today to help.
And we're going to share with you some of the specials that we have going. If you spend $150 and $350, we have gifts for you.
Right.
Today.
All right.
All right. Are we ready for Jolene?
Yeah.
All right. So Jolene's been a friend a long time. Like I said earlier, she put a before and after picture of her yard in Paradise Valley in Facebook a couple of months ago. And it's like, oh man, that would make a great presentation. So you can see what she has done over the course of the last decade to her property. It doesn't have to take a decade. Yeah, so Jolene is a chiropractic physician and health educator. She built an idyllic, sustainable farm as a role model for her patients and her family. Her home and on-site chiropractic office is surrounded by 800 square feet of raised organic vegetable gardens, over 20 trees from the Urban Farm Fruit Tree Program. They live, work, and play on the half acre in the city where their 6 children swing beside seedlings and are surrounded by fresh growing fruit. They eat farm to table, sharing recipes and inspiration with all who visit. And one of the things I love that she does is during harvest season, she'll count the amount of fruit. And I remember one picture where she had 2,000 apricots on a table. It was just mind-blowing. So take it away, Jolene. Hello, Jolene. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you. Thanks for having me, Greg.
You bet. I have followed you on Facebook for a long time, and you've been obviously buying trees from us for a long time. And one of the striking pictures, besides when you count how many peaches you get off of your trees, which is absolutely amazing, but one of the striking pictures was your before and after 10 years later. And I saw that and was just like, wow, how incredible is this? We need to have you talk about this. So let's do that. Jump in.
Well, let me tell you about our decade into building a food forest. This is the picture that Greg is referring to. So on the left is our property in 2012, and on the right is our property in 2022. And you can see that stark difference right away that in 2012, we built this property on a relatively barren half acre. We had an existing pineapple palm, 2 pine trees, 2 very small desert sages, 2 Mexican bird of paradise, and 1 dying orange tree that had not been watered in 10 months. And a lot of people will be like, oh, I want to plant a tree. But we decided that if we had planted a tree, how were we going to water that tree? So we really wanted to plan it out first. So we spent about a year and a half, 2 years planning out how did we really want to use our space. And we decided we wanted to work and play and live in our space. We didn't want to just build around the periphery. We wanted to fill our space up and then live in it. And that way we built it in a future looking way about when we were going to add something, how are we going to water it, and how are we going to create it. And really, why did we want to do that? So that we could eat from farm to table, increase our nutrition, and really exercise and engage in our yard and spend quality time with our kids. So the first consideration was exposure. This is our existing yard when we first bought it. This is looking north, and you can see it's pretty barren. We did have this really beautiful dead palm tree that had been turned into a light fixture. and a pot that we didn't care for the aesthetics of. And this is looking east. We had this plywood shed that was kind of dilapidated and a tumbler composter. And then looking to the west, this is our one dead fruit tree and one kind of sad fruit tree, and my little daughter at the time. So our first consideration for planning actually was the shade that my husband and our realtors are standing in. We wanted to have chickens, and the first consideration in our planning was to use the shade that they're standing in as the basis for our coop run for our chickens to have shade in an enclosed area. And that was the first thing that we planned around. We also needed to have water for our chickens. And that's important because our chickens produce feathers, manure, and that all goes into our sustainable creation of soil and fertilizer and compost that we can use to keep our gardens and our trees healthy. Here's another view looking from the back patio. And we also wanted to reuse all the rock that we could on property. So we actually screened all the river rock and created aesthetic areas for walking, and used whatever we could, or sold what we, or gave away what we weren't going to be able to use. And this was the design plan that we had. So we designed 800 square feet of raised bed gardens, and we combined two of these. So we ended up with 12 beds for raised bed vegetables, and then planting space with berms and water for 15 fruit trees, and then left the desert adapted plants with no water and kept them desert adapted. We added a turf area and a play set for swings for our children. And on the left, the white area was the chicken coop with the run to be in the shade. We did get a variance from our neighbors for both the distance and the walls, and then added our shed and clad that. Again, reusing everything that we could, giving away what we couldn't. First thing you always want to do is call the city for free. They come out and stake your yard and show you where your electric and utilities are, so that you don't accidentally injure yourself or damage your property. These are my two kids, Bryn and Scott. And this was when we were ready to go. It took us till 2014. And the major impetus for us to start was a big rain. We just had a rain, and you can see what a huge difference it makes when there's a big rain in terms of the ease of working in native soil, which is very compacted and hard and clay. So to make our lives easier, we waited till there was a big rain, and then it was go. We went and rented a trencher, and we trenched from the front line main water, where we had a pressure regulator installed by a plumber in copper, and then trenched all the way along our plan and created holes for our trees and trench lines for our water irrigation. My husband is an architect, and he had this idea of making the berms flat with the ground. I don't recommend that, but we did dig out 4-inch berms for each of our tree wells, and then use the native soil combined with compost and some more raw organic ingredients like fresh horse manure and compost chips, and made our garden beds using all of the native soil that we had on site. And of course, no project is complete without throwing your kids in the holes. So we ended up with these 10-foot by 10-foot tree berms to support a good root structure, and holes for our trees. Now we actually make our tree holes in a star shape instead of a circular shape to promote the roots moving out in all directions. But at that time, we made 3-foot wide, 2-foot deep holes for our trees, and irrigation with a single umbrella drip emitter at each of our trees.
Go back one, would you? Those squares that are around the holes, that's your tree basin. That
was our tree basin, and we fill those with 4 to 6 inches of chips.
Nice.
And we redo it about every 1 to 2 years. We add new chips on top. And when our neighbors are cutting trees and things, even with landscapers, we go and bring a trash bucket or whatever, and we try to reuse our neighbors' chips as well. Or every now and again, we use one of the services locally to get chips dropped and bring them from a arborist that's using chips in the area. This is looking at the area that we often call the orchard. So we had in that original plan kind of 3 trees on the left, 3 trees on the right, and a play area in between. And we originally planted for 15 fruit trees, and again, the 800 square feet of organic raised bed vegetables. And then in addition to that, on the left, these holes were for our grapevine, which we kind of designed as an entrance to our backyard to have the vines along this metal trellis that we created, also recycling metal from a local metal worker and trying to upcycle their trash and make it into our art. This is my husband, the master digger. We also hired some help to dig out those berms. And this was the full amount of soil that we had dug out. And after spending all the money and time on the yard, we questioned, maybe we should have just left it at the dirt. The kids loved this backyard. They loved just climbing on the dirt berms. And then we got chickens to go into our chicken coop. So this is my daughter, Bryn, on the left and Ellie on the right. Chickens are a great source of ongoing manure. And you can also harvest the dirt in their runs because they've been stomping on it and picking, and it's wonderful active soil. So this was the chicken coop that we built for them and the run. And you can see the beginnings of our play area on the left. And then in the foreground are the mappings out for our raised bed gardens. And of course, my kids helping along at every aspect of this. Really important to always teach our children about sustainability, gardening. And this was our completed chicken coop with enclosed run. Nothing attracts predators like prey. So we definitely dug down a foot down and 2 feet in all directions to enclose our run. And inside you can see our compost. So the chickens help control any bugs that might be around the composters. We have upgraded to just a tumbler composter. I prefer those to the floor composters, which do attract rats. The tumble composter is great, and whenever we clean the chicken coop, we can put that material in the composter, and when we go to feed the chickens and whatnot, either they eat our leftover food or whatever they don't, we can put into our tumbler composter as well. And here you can see our chickens in their nesting boxes and our chicken hanging out on one of the open composters. We brought water up to the beds, and in the back you can see our first bare root urban farm trees. So in case you look at the afters and you think there's no way you planted these little 15-inch bare root trees, there they are. In the back between the desert sage and the Mexican bird is little baby caracara, Katy Apricot, gold-kissed apricot, little navel orange. We also tore down that palm tree and / light and used the little stoops for the kids to play on.
Nice.
And again, here in the fore, looking backwards, you can see those little baby trees planted and their water lines. If you look real close in the front trees, you can see the drip emitters around the trees before the mulch was added. And the mulch was added very shortly after we planted the trees. And then we built our garden bed, and again, we tried to recycle things. So this is in the foreground here, this is actually a carport that we turned into an architectural element and just strung some rebar on, really just for aesthetics. And then we took the ugly planter that was on site and used some spray paint and made it into a super cool orange pot. Nice. And in the back, you can see on the left, right above my husband there, is our Anna apple. And on the right, the golden Dorset apple. And those trees this year, those same 2 trees that you see right there, this year produced 2,000 apples.
Wow.
And in the back corner here is the beauty plum that I'll show you, our 900 plum harvests shortly. And our Tangelo that we rescued on site here gave us about 220 Tangelos. And then a lot of it died back, but is still alive and still trucking as a little runt tree right now. And this was kind of at the completion of our building. We had our trees. You can see the chips around the young trees. You can barely see some cardboard that we wrapped our tree trunks with to protect the grafts and the young bark. And then the garden beds along with some of our architectural elements that we added. And this is looking from the play set back towards that northeast corner, you can see the execution of that plan from 2 years in the making. And this is the grapes on that trellis of recycled metal.
I love how you made the grape holes big enough.
Yeah, even though they
Supplement the
come really
soil.
small in maybe
Yep.
like a 6-inch pot or 6-inch starter, they do grow. And again, it's all about soil. It's all about conditioning. It's all about creating the opportunity for them to get nutrients. And these grapes have flourished. I had 30 pounds of grapes this year off of
Wow.
those grapes. And really only off of 4 of them. Our Crimsons never produce really, but we have 2 Flame and 2 Thompson, and we had about 20 to 30 pounds of grapes.
Wow.
And this is that orchard view that I was talking about before, with the 3 trees on the left and the 3 trees on the right and the Mexican bird in the back. You'll see some pictures of that upcoming in the future. And then, of course, everything started to grow. Not everything grew. We had our successes and failures. One of the great things about the Urban Farm program is we did have one tree that died, and I showed Greg what I had done, and I was able to replace that tree at a discount and whatnot. I don't consider myself to have so much of a green thumb. A lot of it is just about getting everything right and taking full credit when things go well and taking no credit when things go wrong.
Right.
And this is one of our more completed view pictures when things started growing in the garden. The garden's a great way. It works together with the trees. The trees give us a lot of fruit. The garden gives us a lot of vegetables. We use all of it. And here's looking down that main, and you can see those 2 apple trees growing in the back. We did add a Parfianca pomegranate between them. We planned out for 15 trees. It's kind of like chicken math if you're familiar with the 2 + 2 = 20. We had 15 trees in our original plan, and we ended up adding a tree basically next to every tree that we have and extending our berms out a little bit, and currently have 30 plus fruit trees plus the grapes.
Wow.
And this is 2020, which is the last time I spoke, just showing you again that maturing aspect of the garden and the trees. And this also is in 2020, looking towards that west. Straight ahead in the very back is that Tangelo tree that we looked at before. And on your left and right in the foreground is that orchard with the peaches on the left and the apricots to the right. And this is just 6 years later after we planted.
That's amazing.
And this is looking towards that north wall that I showed you that picture at the very beginning with the garden beds, my giant 5-foot artichokes in the front middle bed there, and the peaches, apricots, and oranges behind them, the apples on the left, the plums to the far left there, mulberries and pomegranates on the right. And here are some of our harvests. These are flame grapes. You can see the grapes in their maturity on the left. Beautiful bunch of grapes in the center and a large harvest on the right. These are the Thompson grapes, and on both the left and the right. In that year, 2019 or 2020, we had 4,000 apricots off of this tree. We haven't had such an abundant harvest off that tree in the last couple of years, but we did have about 200 to 300 apricots this year. Depends on the chill hours, and the tree I think needed to recover after this gigantic harvest. You can see my little son Scott there, our master pickers. And the best part of growing this food is eating it. So this is grilled apricots with goat cheese and pistachios, little drizzle of honey or balsamic. Here's some of our abundant apple harvests. You can see this relatively small Anna apple tree combined with large apple harvest. And our peach trees loaded with peaches. We had about 1,100 peaches this particular year. We wrapped our trees in tulle to protect them just right at the end when they're ripening. Mm-hmm. And these are what I call my bend over peaches. They're so juicy, you have to lean over to eat them.
Right.
In the front on the left are our tropic snow tree peaches. That tree did die. And then our beauty plums, about 900 in this harvest particularly. And this is our 2022 view. You can see the maturity of those same pines, the beautiful gardens, the palms, the mature fruit trees around the periphery, the same architectural elements and playground. And I just wanted to share a quick story. On the left, I had a tree that was almost dying. I actually moved it. I pulled it out just with a single hand, and it basically grafted onto itself. In the center, you can see the dead tree from the left, and the leaf grew into a trunk, grew down a tree, and I got about 250 peaches on that tree on the right. When it really died, it really had one leaf on that left tree that you see there.
Wow.
So nature is incredible.
Yes, it is.
And we also have xeriscaping around the yard that gets no water. So you're balancing out sustainability and food production. And then 7 years ago this week, I also moved my office to this garden space. So I look out every day onto this beautiful space, living, working, and playing in the same space. And I couldn't do any of it without my family. It's a wonderful experience for all of us. Sometimes it's a little angry and a little hot and a little sweaty, but it's a really wonderful process. And these are my children, Ellie, Bryn, Scott, Gavin, Tyler, and Louie, and my husband, Daniel. And I'd like to just show you a quick update of this week, just giving you a little preview of what's going on. Like I said, we added trees all around. So, and the great thing about our planning is because we knew exactly where our water was, we added this giant playground during COVID. But because we knew exactly where our water was and we had made great maps of everything that we were using, we were able to add an additional 15 trees without really extending any water lines, just dug a little hole, added another drip emitter, and added a few experimental trees and some other trees to fill in for in a few years when they mature to add some more fruit into the trees. So this is on the, again, that west side of the property, plums, apples, pomegranate between them, that mature pine on the north side, sweet potato harvest about 500 pounds of ube purple sweet potatoes.
Wow.
And again, peaches, apricots, cara, red oranges. We've added a couple experiments with a sundowner apple, a banana tree. We have kosher 1,000-year-old heritage etrog trees. We have a couple dead branches there. You can see we'll trim those. This is that orchard with the playground that I showed you at the beginning many times, with the 3 trees on the left and the 3 trees on the right surrounding. You can see the maturity there. Our young etrog in the back. The apricot mulberry is going to be here on the left, and some peaches and apples over there on the left as well, and pomegranate, and then the grapes, and again with the xeriscape. So I just want you guys to feel inspired that you can create a very sustainable, low water using, drip irrigated, relatively low maintenance yard, and really make it your own, live, work, play, and build your own nutrition directly from your own backyard.
Nice. It's as exciting as I had hoped it would be. Good job. Do you get dates on your date palm?
It's a pineapple palm. So
okay.
it doesn't produce dates, but it does produce seeds, and we get a lot of birds in what we call our natural aviary, as well as our resident rock squirrel, and an abundance of different kinds of beautiful lizards that keep the system in check.
Nice. And you're a chiropractor?
Yes, I am. And so it's a great way of teaching health in action. People can come in and learn about keeping their bodies healthy from the inside out.
Yeah, excellent. Well, and I recognize a lot of those pictures going back 10 years.
Yeah.
Because you are religious about posting on Facebook, and it's fun to follow you on Facebook. So
it's great to just be able to share and get some excitement about what we're doing and the harvest that we have, and be able to inspire others that, you know, after one of the interviews that you did, I started thinking about it, and I bet we produce 3,000 pounds of food a year.
Wow.
Yeah, maybe even more than that.
Wow. Well, congratulations, and thank you so much for your presentation today.
Thank you so much for having me, and go out there and start with whatever you can and grow some food.
Woohoo! Hello. Awesome. All right, as Janice comes on, there are a couple of questions that we're going to answer real quick. Tulle is a fabric you buy at the fabric store, and Tom Spellman, a little later today, will be talking about backyard orchard culture, which means we keep our trees small and it's easier to put the tool over them. Never use bird netting.
Bird netting.
It tangles with the trees and kills birds. You want to use tool to keep the birds away from your fruit, and it works amazingly well.
It's so much easier to navigate putting that over your tree than bird netting and to take it off. If you don't care about the birds and you care about just yourself, it's still so much easiasier to use tool.
Yeah, because it tangles up in the tree. I had a neighbor a few years ago that I had to cut bird netting out of her tree.
Oh,
because the tree just grew through it. The other question is from Jamie. Can you explain the importance of wood chips around the base of the tree? Single most important thing you can do is 6 inches of woody mulch, 6-foot diameter basin. We go into that in depth in several of our classes. So I'm going to leave you with that. Come back and take one of our classes.
Yes.
About that.
Our free classes.
Yes. Yeah. All right, Ms.
All
Janice.
right. The next thing I want to talk about really quick is what the Urban Farm does is we help you by offering climate and seasonally appropriate fruit trees. We've done the work to only bring in trees that are the types that are going to succeed. I mean, you still have to do the work to take care of it, but we help you with that. Especially when it comes to deciduous trees. Citrus trees love the sun. We are a valley of the sun, and so we're in a good place for that. So if you got good soil and good watering, you can do really well with citrus. Choosing them isn't as complex, but deciduous trees, they don't normally like our type of weather and our type of soil. So that's what the Urban Farm does. We bring climate and seasonally appropriate trees. And we have some specials that we'd like to show. So go ahead and show this up. For today, we have some kickoff specials. For the next couple of months, we have the early bird specials. So between now and the end of October, we have bundles that you can select to pick multiple trees of deciduous trees, and you can find those on our line, not just this slide yet, for early bird specials online. But today we have some specials. This is what we do to kick off and get everything going, because this helps our whole program, is if we can get more orders in early than later. Go to Kickoff Specials and you can see what we have. Next slide. So the easy breakdown is, if you spend $150 on fruit trees and plants during this kickoff week, you will get a free single tree starter kit. This is the amendments that you put in the hole for a tree to help start them off with the right nutrients to get them going right. The kit 2022 or kit 2022 is what you use as the code when you're going ahead and you have $150. It will only work if you have $150 on fruit trees and plants. It'll automatically add it to your order and you're good to go. However, if you spend $350 on plants, next slide. This means you've got several trees, you've got a big investment in your yard. We want to make sure you get a little bit going with that. Use the code Kickoff 2022 and we'll add in a Bioflora dry crumbles. So if you've placed an order in the last few days and we want it and it qualifies for this, we will go ahead and help you with that. However, this is a very limited time that you can have this. This is to help us get going. And if you have separated your orders, deciduous and citrus, and together you have enough to qualify for one of these, just put a note in the comments and we'll take care of making sure you add it. So in review, to spend $150 on fruit trees and plants, use the code KIT2022 or 350, I'm sorry, that's a typo right there. 350 on fruit trees and plants and use the code Kickoff 2022 to get the Bioflora crumbles. It'll be automatically added to your order. Craig, you want to talk about catalogs or you want me to talk about catalogs?
I'm going to jump in and talk about the catalogs because I want to toot your horn. If you go to fruittrees.org, we're going to make this a quick one. Go to fruittrees.org. On the front page right at the top, Janice has put together 3 catalogs, and they are amazing catalogs. One for the deciduous trees, one for the citrus trees and one for the general store products. Just go check them out. We're running short on time today, but just go check them out.
In typical urban farm fashion, each one of these catalogs have a lot of little tips and hints. Those are hips to help you with your system. All right.
Somebody would like you to put the codes in the chat.
Okay, we can do that. Oh, so those are the 3 catalogs. They're 3 separate catalogs. They're good for just this season. Citrus is going fast. So if you want citrus, go ahead and do it fast.
Yeah.
I'm going to go ahead and put the things in the comments.
Great. And then TW, let's go ahead and play the the apricot video.
This happens to be my favorite one right here. I have a lot of favorites. What can I say? This happens to be one of my favorites. This is the Katy Apricot. And this is the time of year when we're actually harvesting apricots. And come and check it out. These are the best ones to get. These are the ones that are nature picked. They're sitting on the ground. They're the best. I just, blow off some of the stuff if there's any stuff on them. Oh my God. That is the best. Katy Apricot. Here we are. So that is a store-size apricot. We don't get a lot of those, partially because we're not actually thinning the fruit off of the tree when they're smaller. The more fruit on the tree, the less size you're going to get on the fruit themselves. Normally we're getting something between here and here on the apricot, but they taste just as good. They dehydrate just as well. They make jam just as well. What you're seeing in the grocery store is the perfect fruit. What we're getting here is all of the fruit. So know that it's okay if you're not getting all your apricots like this.
All right, all right, all right. I think what we have coming up next, there's this whole moving target that we're working on today. Kristen is next. Oh, actually, Janice is going to come on and talk about the prize drawings. Miss Janice. So, are you there? All right,
I am. Cool. I just had to find my mouse. It wasn't working the way I wanted it to. All right. The winner today is, what do I have running? What are we drawing? I said question. We are drawing a consult and a book right now.
Oh,
so
very good.
For the consult, Matt Avella, if you're out there, you get to have one of our consults.
So I want to say this real quickly about our consults. It's something I started doing about 15 years ago in my driveway using Google Earth. People would come to the house and I found that we could do them virtually, and you will learn so much from a consult. You can buy one. They're in our shopping cart, and we just gave one away. So yay, Matt.
And our pruning book is going to number 76. Joey Bartolit. I think I said that name. Joey Bartolit. So I have it in here. We'll have instructions at the end on how to claim these, but congratulations to Matt. Congratulations to Joey. All right. Now, again, go ahead. If you haven't put your name in, go ahead and put your name in there to kick off drawing. And we're going to be going ahead and pulling some more names.
All right. I'm not seeing Kristen's bio, but I'm going to go ahead and introduce her.
Good.
Kristen Parsons has a property right near Jolene, actually, interestingly. She's got 3/4 of an acre. And her talk today is cultivated food forest, and her company, she is a landscape designer. If you ever need some great landscape work, Kristen Parsons, and you'll be able to get information on how to contact her in a minute. Yes, Janice.
Kristen is also an educator, and she has some classes that she gives through her website on permaculture-based design around your fruit trees, including gills and stuff. So we are loving her permaculture focus and are thrilled to be sharing her information.
And she's going to be talking about guilds. And if you don't know what guilds are, you're going to get the lesson on that and a document on how to create one.
Now, as you're watching this video and you are inspired, and if you want to see her property in person, stay tuned. Kristen will be doing some tours with us. So we will be setting those up. We don't have dates chosen yet, but maybe this fall, definitely this spring, we'll be doing some tours with Kristen. Nice.
All right, go ahead, TW. Let's play Kristen. Today we are here with Kristen Parsons of Cultivated LLC. She does some really cool stuff in her yard and in the community. Welcome, Kristen.
Thank you so much for having me, Greg.
Oh my gosh. And we've been working together for at least a decade on different projects. And in fact, we've done some tours. We'll probably do more tours of your place coming up this fall and maybe in the spring as well. So you get a dose of what she has to offer today in pictures, and then you'll be able to come and visit.
Yeah, we'll get you a fun preview. Although it changes month by month.
Yeah, before we started recording, you said these pictures are from March, but they're changed because things grow, right?
It's true. It's true. When we were talking about setting up the tours, Jana said, "What's the best time to see your yard?" And I struggled choosing just one time because there's so many exciting times throughout the year.
Yeah. Amen to that. All right. Well, let's jump in.
I want to start out by saying that every single photo that you're going to see in this slideshow is from my yard and of my plants. I've got a ½ acre. I'm right on the Phoenix Scottsdale border on drip irrigation. So you'll see what's possible with drip irrigation. And I've lived in this house for just over 10 years. And when we got it, it was all rock with a couple of mature citrus trees. And I saw lots of potential. And so I feel like in the last probably 2 or 3 years, it's really taken those next steps from just being fruit trees and the mulch to getting all those other layers of a food forest filled in. So we will review what makes it and how to make your own. All right, let's start with what is that food forest, or a forest garden, as I like to call it. And I think that part of my entire ethos is to fundamentally change the way people look at landscaping, because I can't tell you how many people come to my yard and don't realize that they're surrounded by food until I start to point it out to them. And so that's always kind of a fun light bulb moment to watch.
Right.
Because if you're just looking at it to the untrained eye, it just looks like regular landscaping. There's a mixture of the fruit trees and shrubs and flowers and herbs, but literally 90% of it is edible. I use the flowers for multiple purposes. They are good for the pollinators and helping me achieve higher levels of pollination on the fruit trees by bringing in butterflies and hummingbirds and of course bees. And so I had to put on here my little philosophy. If you're going to give such a precious resource as water to a plant, shouldn't that plant have a purpose other than looks? Shouldn't it feed me back, or feed the wildlife, or create habitat? And so, as we all know, water is getting more and more scarce. It makes me even have more fire in my heart about watering stuff that matters. Let's stop watering ornamental stuff and start watering food. And you can still have a beautiful landscape at the same time.
I've said for years, why bother watering something if you can't eat it or if it doesn't support your edibles? So
exactly. Well, I feel the same way. That's why on my list here of why to grow a food forest, the first thing is eat.
I love the permaculture principles attached to it. Eat, obtain a yield.
Yes, that is the goal, right? To obtain that yield. We all observed the empty grocery store shelves during the pandemic. If that wasn't a light bulb moment, then like, I don't know what is. And so it gives you that food security to be able to interact with your landscape by planting it, tending to it, and then the best part, harvesting from it and eating from it. So then I have the biodiversity on there. I have so many more cool birds and butterflies in my yard, and people come over and they just think, oh my goodness, that is alive in so many senses of the word. And it's really shocking when you see that stark contrast when you go from your typical desert landscaping to a food forest. Like, it just feels good, right? And so part of how you achieve that is to integrate instead of segregating. We're not talking monoculture. You can see in this picture in the background that I've got straw flowers coming up in between my artichokes. And I mean, there's just layers on layers of goodness. And that's where we get back to that. It's always looking different. It's always changing, and it's always evolving because it's a living ecosystem, right? My yard will creatively respond to change, and I get to witness it every day, which is super exciting. The regenerative agriculture things on the side, no till. I mean, like, whew, I joke that my yard is my gym, but like, thank goodness
It's no joke.
I'm not out there tilling. Like, if I'm digging, there's a plant going in that hole, right?
Right.
So it's great to connect with nature and get your hands in the earth, but we don't have to till. Thank goodness. We don't need to run any crazy machinery. Ugh, no smells from the gas engines of the tillers or the blowers or any of that kind of stuff, because I want all of my organic matter to stay on site so that I can build healthy soil. And things like those perennial crops is what's going to give you that landscape feel, because it's not all annuals, right? So there are plants that have some permanence there and give you that continuous landscape look to your forest garden. I've touched on many of these benefits already. The picture is in my front courtyard. We've got grapes, sweet potatoes, and 5 fruit trees just in the front courtyard. So that's always a fun walk up. And my front courtyard faces west. And so to have something that's so happy is partially because I've got a big mesquite in the front. I didn't plant it. Otherwise, it would have been a native mesquite. And then I could have used the beans and the flower, but I didn't plant it. So I'm not going to rip out a perfectly good tree, but unfortunately those beans are not tasty, but it provides so much microclimate benefit to my front yard. And I just love that tree so much. So it is serving a purpose.
Plus it shades the west side of your house.
That's right. Reducing my cooling load for my AC. I want to talk about reducing the carbon footprint, because anything that you're getting from the store has been shipped from somewhere. And so it doesn't get any smaller of a carbon footprint to walk out your door and pick fruit. You're like, it's such a big feeling. I love when I'm like mid-meal and I'm like, oh man, I need this certain ingredient. And then I can just pick, done. Oh my gosh, I love it. Which builds your all around health, because you're eating super local, you're eating organic, because you're growing organic. And so you're going to get that physical benefit from working in the earth, and you're going to get that other gut benefit from eating healthy food. And so there's kind of no way to go wrong with that. And then I have builds community on here, because amazing things happen when you plant food. When I started building my forest garden, people wanted to see it. And so people think, what is a food forest? Can I come see it in person? Can I experience it? And so that has led to hosting events for garden clubs, schools. It's so fun to see kids get excited about growing food.
Oh, big time.
Ugh. And of course, I mean, like, the kids line up to see the ducks too, which is so exciting, and learning where their food comes from. You can see right in the very middle, I'm holding up some large garlic, so that they can see what it looks like other than from the grocery store. And so it was really fun. A lot of the parents on some of these school tours said, I don't think these kids even realize how cool this is. And that was a great compliment. I love getting them involved and getting their hands in the dirt and having people be able to try planting or pruning in a safe space, And so I'm going to be doing more of that. But it's amazing, because I never imagined this level of stuff when I was planting. I was just like, oh, I want my yard to grow food, but look at all these amazing extra benefits. And so this is just a teeny tiny little, I grabbed a couple slides showing, my kitchen counter pretty much always looks like this, but it's with different food or flowers at different times of year.
You
right?
and Jolene.
Oh no, her harvest put mine to
harvests.
shame. I mean, like I feel like most of the time I eat half of my stuff before I get it in the house.
Of course. Absolutely.
I mean, it's like yard snacks, right? I love to grab a handful of mulberries and walk the yard and just eat on those mulberries as I'm checking on my plant. So a lot of times it doesn't even make it in, but once it does make it in, like I'm turning it into something delicious. The possibilities are so endless. It's very exciting. Here's a quick little slide to show the progression. Left to right, we have 1982, I believe. You can go and find historical aerial photography on the assessor's page. And so I went back. This house was built in 1979, I believe. And so 82 was the first year I was able to get the aerial photography. And then as we move from left to right, we have the year we bought the house. So you can see all of that rock. And then it had a few, of course, it had a bunch of oleanders, which came out.
Right.
So all along that south side, that was all oleanders. And then on the north side, there was some mature citrus. And I was very excited about that. And then you can see what it looks like today, a lot more lush and green. I will point out, I do have fake turf, but it was all reclaimed. So I saved it from the landfill. It was not new stuff. But again, I'm not going to water grass. And so I saved part of a high school football field for my son to play on. And we left the stripes because we thought it looked cool, right?
Nice.
That was a fun little thing, but it's like the only green going on that's not food. But all the rest of it is food. And then on the right there, since I have my background in the architecture world, of course, I have the whole property modeled in 3D. And so you can see kind of how I built that model of the house to show my husband what I wanted to create. There's even some stuff on there that doesn't exist yet today. I joke around with people in the yard tours that if there's a place where there's not plants, it's because that's where we want to add on to the house someday. But other than that, I have planted in every little pocket that I can, which you got to use all that space. This was just super fun because it's so zoomed out on the satellite photos. And of course, in here, you can even see the weeds, which, I've got because I don't spray anything. There's always varying levels of weeds in the yard, but the weeds are an indicator that I'm building healthy soil, right? Those pioneer plants, as we like to call them.
Exactly.
And so you can see in here, I've probably got 10 fruit trees in this picture. Plus you can see my artichokes and then asparagus. I've got a lot of herbs and flowers in those beds. They're not all formal beds because I do want it to feel more like landscaping, but I do have a couple of beds in there. And then on the left is the duck pens. And then a new addition to the yard, which is a 20-foot shipping container that I am converting to a combination above ground root cellar and seed storage, and then also seed starting. So it has solar on it now, which is very exciting. And it has a solar powered air conditioning unit on it. Yeah. So in future tours, we'll get to peek at that. It's a work in progress for sure. I've got
all our urban farms are.
Oh, yes. It's like if you don't have 10 projects happening all at once, like, are you really farming? Right. But I'm really excited to get some big progress made on that because I've been working on that for at least a year already and it's not done. But I mean, I think one of the most exciting things I tell people is to enjoy the journey, right?
Oh, yes.
Embrace it because like it's so amazing now. Like you get in the weeds and you get working on it and you don't realize how much your progress you're making sometimes until you look back at old photos and then you're like, wow, like, all right. And so I always try to take a whole bunch of photos to go back and look at some. And here's another fun drone photo of some areas we've seen in other pictures. On the left there, that is a 7 fruit tree guild.
Wow.
Yeah.
With artichokes underneath it.
Yeah. And on the far left up against the fence there, that's sugarcane peeking out.
I wondered about that.
Yes. So I keep some perennial herbs and vegetables and things inside that area. And then I use the boxes to kind of just formalize and delineate the space. And then so the annuals go in the boxes because those are always changing. And then the guilds under the fruit trees are what's inside there, giving that landscape feel. So
You mentioned the word a couple of times, guild. Give us a 30-second definition of what that is.
Sure. A guild is a group of plants that is specifically designed to be an intentional miniature ecosystem. It usually has a fruit tree, and then there's different layers underneath, right? Shrubs, vines, ground covers, and all of the plants underneath those are selected to companion and plant and support the tree and each other. And so certain parts of the guild serve different functions. And they are one of my favorite things to implement in the yard because that really gives it that food forest feel because it literally is plants on plants on plants, but they're all serving a purpose and doing their job.
You have a guild little mini book for us at the end, right?
That's right.
Excellent.
Yes. Another fun view of the yard there. This is from eye level of that same area. So you can see the sugar cane and some mulberries and figs and artichokes and garlic and all kinds of good things in there. And then these are just some of the different zones in the yard. Some of the areas are more filled in with those understory plants than others. Really, my biggest hurdle was irrigation. And once I decided to just rebuild all the irrigation myself, that opened up all the possibilities and I could really go for it. You know, for many years, it was like the cobbler's children have no shoes. Like I was so busy designing other people's yards that my yard was kind of just the forgotten hot mess. And so I really took advantage of that in the pandemic and really filled that in. So
when I do garden consults with people, the single number one first thing I talk to them about is make sure that your water is in, and you'll want more than one spigot in your backyard.
Absolutely. Right. And that's what we talk about in permaculture, right? Is to plant the water first and then plant the plants, right?
Yeah.
You will make your life so much easier. I should have started there, but I learned it the hard way so that I can tell people not to do it the hard way, right?
Yeah. Well, in Jolene's presentation, she presented how she put hers in.
I just love that about what you do is that you get all these different people coming together, showing folks that there's not just one way to do it, but that we can all work together and do it better.
Right.
And then on the north side of the property, now this is still not all the layers because again, it goes back to irrigation. I'm still building it over there. So this is how like my whole yard looked for 8 years, where it was pretty much just fruit trees and wood chip mulch, right? Because that's where you start. You start with getting in that wood chip mulch to cool the earth and the root zone of those trees. And you get the irrigation in those trees in, and that's where it all starts.
When I do consults with people, get your water in, get your woody mulch in.
I'm hoping that people are inspired by this stuff and then they can start their own if they haven't already, right? So if you want those steps to success, you gotta, when I tell people when we're starting a design, I say, what do you eat the most? Like, let's plant what you eat, right? And what do you buy at the market? Like, let's observe the lifestyle and see what you like to eat you can grow yourself. And so that's where the research comes in. You have so many resources for people to learn how to grow food. Take advantage of those for sure, because you'll never know it all, right? And so I think it's a fun part of that journey is just learning, right? Then gotta buy local, gotta get the stuff that's for our climate, that's going to do well, get to know those farmers and, and source things from people who have been growing here a long time. Like that is so crucial. Just because you see something at a big box store doesn't mean it's going to work here. So
you said big box stores there. A few years ago was on, I think, channel 7 or, one of the local channels. And they asked me about, when you go into big box store, how much will it actually work locally? And something like 60%. I went to one of the big box stores.
That's actually higher than I thought.
Well, 60% won't work.
Oh, 60% won't work. Okay.
Yeah, 60% of the stuff they had there weren't climate appropriate or season appropriate for Phoenix.
Yeah. I mean, it's all fresh off the trucked in from somewhere else with either from a greenhouse where it was a super controlled and protected and babied environment, or a whole other state. And so we are our own animal for sure. And so it's so crucial. And I'm so glad. I mean, anybody who's listening to this already is smarter than the average bear, right? Because,
Right.
because they're here to get that kind of information and to get started, right? So yay, good job, everybody. And then when you start planting, plant big to small. You don't want to plant a bunch of little annuals and then have to go in and get rid of them to dig a hole for a fruit tree. You want to start with those trees and then add the shrub level and then the annuals, because the annuals are going to be changing over time. Perennials, you'll want to let them get established and see there's mature size, because mature size is not always what it says on the package. Like if you just Google a peach tree guild or something, like I've seen internet examples of guilds where they suggest artichokes under trees that are small, and artichokes can get huge. And
Right.
you've seen in some of my pictures, they get giant. There's a reason why the artichokes are on the west side of my mulberry and key lime, and they're farther out because they need space. And so, once you get those kind of layers in and established, then you can see where you can sprinkle in those annuals. Order those fruit trees, start digging those holes, and then when you're ready to know what to plant around those fruit trees, then that's where my guild building guide comes in.
You can use your phone and snap a picture of that QR code, and that'll take you to the website, right?
Yep, it takes you right to my Teachable page on Cultivated. And right now I've got the guild building guide and a peach tree class, but I'll have a bunch more later, and then I'll calendar for in-person workshops too. But really, when we're talking about food forests, the guild guide is where it's at, because there is nothing else like it on the internet, especially not for our climate.
Nice. And you've done a really good job of that. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. It was so fun talking about this with you today.
Right? That's one of the bonuses of my world, is that I get to talk to people like you every day, and in the podcast and in doing these events, and I get to learn new stuff.
Like every day. That's amazing.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. All right. Thank you. Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
All right. All right. I think Janice has a giveaway. So we're going to give away.
Do I get to do another giveaway?
You do. It says here, nope. Pull for a tree. We're giving away a fruit tree and a starter kit.
All right. Our fruit tree winner right now is Cindy Clark. Cindy Clark is our fruit tree winner, and a starter kit is next random. This is randomized. Basically, I took all the names and I put them in a spreadsheet and I randomized them. Mm-hmm. And our starter kit is Priscilla Sparks. Priscilla Sparks. I'll tell you more about how to redeem these at the end. Shall we continue?
Yes, we shall. We have a quick video, one of our quick tree videos. These were all videos that we shot before I left Phoenix on the Pakistani Mulberry. So let's go ahead and play
My favorite mulberry.
Oh, it is amazing.
Greg and I have a little war. His favorite is the Dwarf Black. My favorite is the Pakistani. My husband doesn't get very many of these because I take them all for myself.
There you go. All right.
As part of my food forest, we have mulberries growing in the yard. And these are very interesting mulberries because of their size and their taste. And in permaculture, we have something called stacking functions. Stacking functions means that we use one asset, like a mulberry tree, for multiple things. Now, what this particular mulberry tree is doing is it's shading my office. My office is behind there, and this is a western exposure. So this cuts down the air conditioning bill of my office dramatically in the summertime, which is really cool. The second thing that this tree does is it makes amazing Pakistani mulberry fruit. The third thing it does is that it drops leaves every winter, and those leaves make mulch for my compost system here at the urban farm, which we'll talk about in another episode about the regenerative composting system that I've got set up here at the Urban Farm, which includes chickens, by the way. This is an amazing tree. It was planted about 3 years ago at an inch diameter base, and it's easily 6 inches diameter now. Plus, there's nothing better than fresh food from your yard that you get to pick every single day. This is how we eat most of our fruit in our yard, standing out in the yard. As part of my food forest, we have mulberries growing in the yard. Very
Oh my goodness.
their size and their taste.
I'm still hearing the video. There we go.
Yeah.
I love the mulberry.
Yeah, it is pretty amazing.
Love the mulberry. I cannot wait for them to pop back up in my yard.
One of the reasons, we're going to see a video, I think, on dwarf black mulberries here in a little while as well. One of the reasons I like the dwarf black mulberries is how productive they are.
Yes.
The dwarf black, it makes more fruit than anything I've ever seen in the valley. So
when properly cared for and properly hydrated, a dwarf black mulberry, and if you prune it, you can actually get multiple seasons of dwarf black of the mulberries.
Yeah,
because it's ever bearing. Nice. Okay,
we're going to talk about the slides. Yep.
Let's see what's next. Kickoff specials.
Yep.
Again, I've updated the system. If you go ahead and put $150 in your cart and use the code KIT2022, it'll automatically add a single tree starter kit. If you spend $350 and use the code Kickoff2022, you get a 50-pound bag of Bioflora dry crumbles. Bioflora is the fertilizer that Greg has been offering the longest. It is organic. It is fabulous. And 50 pounds will go good for, if you have like 5 or more trees, the 50-pound bag is what you want. So there's that. And the single trees.
And it's organic, which is, it's Omni certified, which basically means it's organic. And if you try and buy a 5 or a 10-pound bag of organic fertilizer at the store, it's probably going to cost you $25. And so that's a screaming deal. And hey, just spend $350 and we'll give you a bag.
We'll give you a bag. And the single tree starter amendments, basically what we've done is we've been over the years deciding what is the best to put in the hole with your tree. And we're going to say mycorrhiza, worm castings, azomite, and organic fertilizer. And that's the best things to start with. Of course, we also are going to talk about using some folio products to even boost even to better results. But this is the bare minimum of what we suggest. And here we have it all packaged up together just for one tree, ready to go. And we have bundle bulk specials on that as well. So there you go. And I already see, Greg, we already have a couple of people who have emailed me and said, hey, I already spent that much. Can I get it? Yes.
Yes, you can.
Send me an email. I will go ahead. I will go back. I will look for your order and I will make the adjustments over the next few days.
Yes, yes. Absolutely. We will do that for you. So Janice, I get to introduce Janice here. She has designed a new class. And this new class is really upscaling your tree care. And it talks about the different levels. This is a mini version of that class. Is it a mini version? It starts to explain the concept.
What I've realized is that there are many different areas that we use to take care of our trees, and that will be explained in this class. And there's levels of care that you can give to each different area. And it depends on what your time is, what your energy level is, what financial commitment you want to give. You can kind of piecemeal what works best for you, and we're going to tell you how to get the maximum results with that.
Yeah, because we have discovered some magical things about making trees thrive here in the low desert over the past 10 years, and that's a big part of what she's sharing. So Janice's expertise revolves around community and education. She has more than 2 decades of experience managing youth programs and trainings for both youth and their leaders. She has a great passion for helping others learn new skills. Wanting to take her own education further, she pursued degrees in chemistry and sustainability at Arizona State University and snagged an internship with the Urban Farm. Actually, she browbeat me into an internship at the Urban Farm just because I didn't want to have to manage anybody. But then I learned she manages me really well. So there she became motivated to learn all she could about growing food while using her project management skills to facilitate the Urban Farm's programs and events like this one. Now she's found her calling and knows she's making a difference in her community, and there is no stopping her, and that is the truth. And take it away, TW, with Janice's new class.
This is my fruit tree levels of care brainstorm. Greg and I have been working on trying to clarify and communicate different things to customers as they ask questions. And there was some concerns that I thought this might actually address. So this is fruit tree levels of care. And this is an introduction to a new concept that we're using as we're teaching. You know, and I love this quote. It really spoke to me, and I've had it at the bottom of some of my emails. What trees exhale, we inhale. What we exhale, they inhale. They are the other half of our respiratory system. But this spoke to me, and I think that it helps us understand how important trees are for us. And this is just trees in general, not even fruit trees. Those are even more better. Okay. So tree care levels. There are different levels of care that you can use for yourself as a guideline for taking care of the trees in your space. And we've been teaching about these in other ways. One thing you can all know is that there's basically a generic common method out there. Pretty much everybody does this. This is what those landscapers that come and they'll plant a tree and they'll pat down the ground and walk away and then they're done. This is a generic common method. Well, the Urban Farm has a basic method that Greg has been teaching for 20 plus years. This is how you get it in the ground and have your fruit trees succeed. This is essential for low desert. Well, a few years ago, we improved on it. We've got the improved or intermediate Urban Farm method. And this is taking it up a level. This is adding a little bit more. We're going to tell you what that means. But lately, we've had some information and some experience that has led us to create the Ultra Success method. And naming these methods have been really key in trying to identify and help explain where you might be or where you choose to be within your tree care processes. There are 6 specific areas of tree care that we've been teaching about. We've been talking about in our classes. We've been talking about it in our monthly tree care chats. There are 6 specific areas of tree care, and you can mix and match what level of care you want to do in these specific areas to match your needs. So we've got the planting, we've got ground cover. These are pretty basic items that are in our program. Mostly we're talking about getting the tree in the ground and applying wood mulch, how to water, how and when to fertilize, pruning. It's important for keeping the tree within reach, and shading. This is a critical new element for our tree care program to help protect our trees in the low desert from extreme heat. So let's go back to our levels. There are 4 levels of tree care that we've identified. The first level is the generic common method. Most everyone knows how to do these steps. Even if you haven't done them, they're pretty basic, they're intuitive. This is kind of just basically getting your tree in the ground and taking care of it. The cost for this is basically your initial tree cost. There might be a little bit more if you want to get a little extra soil or some tools to take care of it, but we're generically at the basic level of just getting a tree and putting it in the ground. The time that you're going to invest in taking care of a tree in this particular method is minimal. You just initially plant it. This might actually cover one of those decorative trees that you would have in a corner somewhere or in your front yard if you're trying to meet HOA demands. There's not a lot of work or effort to take care of this. It's pretty simple and easy. The reward for fruit trees is limited. We're maybe talking 3 to up to 5 years for fruit. You might get a few in there, but to get a full fruit load, you're talking about 5 years. There is some failure expected because not all trees planted in this method are going to survive. Some may. And the aesthetic beauty is, pretty limited. It's a basic bland tree in our minds. Well, the urban farm has a basic method. This is what we have been teaching, or Greg has been teaching for 20 plus years. You may have seen this logo. This is what he used to have on our website to go find out how to buy and plant your fruit trees. This is our original method, and it is the bare minimum of what we recommend for low desert planting. We're not going to tell you anything from the generic method as our method. This is where we're taking a step up, and we teach this freely in our programs because this is what it takes to succeed. Now, what are you going to invest to get through one of these programs? You're going to buy your tree. You're going to buy some soil and some mulch. This is your top woody mulch, and some organic fertilizer. This is what you need to get started with an urban farm fruit tree. And you're talking probably, depending on how much you get, maybe $80 worth of supplies. Ballpark, that might change, give or take. The time that you're going to put into taking care of a fruit tree at this level is kind of minimal. It's kind of easy. You put your initial effort in to dig your hole, plant your tree, and your care and feeding is 4 times a year, putting some fertilizer around the tree. This will help you get a tree and help you have some fruit. And this is what's worked for the urban farm for 20 years. The reward is ongoing. You're going to be getting fruit in about 3 years with this, sometimes sooner. You'll have healthier soil because you're putting organic fertilizer, nothing else but the best for our trees. And you'll have a cooler microclimate because of working with the top mulch that we teach about. This is the urban farm basic method. And you've probably heard about it if you've been working with us for a while. About 5 years ago, we started putting some more stuff together, and we came up with the intermediate or the improved urban farm method. And these have the required steps of all the different areas for our guarantee. Now, we do have a guarantee. It requires that you do our basic steps of this level here, and you reach out to us for help before your tree gets too bad. That was also part of what Greg started a few years ago in his manifesto. For those of you who bought trees from us, we were handing these documents out at the tree care pickup. It started out as a 1-page sheet, and then it ended up probably being about 12. And then we decided we needed to go online with a little bit more information. So our basic method items, and what you're talking about here is your tree, your soil, your mulch, your organic fertilizer, and you're going to add in some starter amendments. Some sweet potatoes or cowpeas, that's your ground cover, a moisture meter to help you identify the needs of your soil, and our new liquid amendments, the High Creations product lines that we love so well. Your time is moderate. You're going to do your initial planting plus some monthly feedings. You might be able to sneak in some biweekly if your schedule permits, but all that's required to make it for this level is monthly, taking care of that either with drenching or with foliar feeding, and you're good for the intermediate level. Reward, significant. You will get fruit in approximately 2 to 3 years, depending on the trees. Your trees and bushes will be way healthier, resistant to pests, to disease. They are just a happier, vibrant tree. And your soil life will be diverse with animals and insects. It's just a beautiful ecosystem. I'm in love with this method in my own yard. Greg is seeing it at his yard. This is the method that we just love. However, we have some amazing mentors, and we've been talking to them, and Greg has been just interviewing them at length to get their secrets. So we have the ultra success method. Now this does take a few extra steps for best results. There's a little bit more money involved, and it's our preferred method. This is what we do at our place, and it's approved by our mentors. That's Greg and me. Hi. Now, what are you talking about investment? Well, you're talking about the basic and the intermediate items, the tree, the soil, the mulch, the fertilizer, the moisture meter, the liquid amendments, but you're also going to add in a soil probe and your choice of guild items. Those are plants that'll go around your trees. The time that you're going to be putting into this is a little bit more moderate. You're going to be putting in your initial planting, and you'll do monthly to bi-weekly foliar feedings, or there's some other alternatives we've got in other classes on that. But this is building it out into something that is a communication with you and your trees. Now, even that bi-weekly amount, you're just going to go out, you're going to inspect your trees, you're going to be doing what you need to do bi-weekly, a little bit of foliar feeding, a little bit of looking at it. It's not a lot. It's just a bi-weekly time on your calendar. The rewards: stronger, healthier trees. You can expect fruit to show up even sooner than the 2 to 3 years, but maybe what you do see in that 2 to 3 years is more fruit. And again, super vibrant plant animal ecosystem. Absolutely our favorite method. Now, these levels of urban farm tree care, you will start seeing these symbols, the basic, the intermediate, and the ultra success on our lot in our general store. We're going to be implementing these to help you find what you're looking for these different levels. So if you're ready, you can start off with the basic, and that's if your time, if your energy, if your pocketbook is going to be limited, you can start at the basic and still get fruit trees. But if you've got a little bit more time and maybe just a little bit more room in your pocketbook, it doesn't have to come out all at once. You can start with the intermediate. But if you do have time and you're ready to put a little bit more investment into this long-term fruit-producing orchard that you are planning and growing, you can work into the ultra success. Again, mix, match, make it work for you, for what your time commitment is, for what your pocketbook commitment is, and for what your goals are. Now, you can level up in these tree care areas. I'm going to talk about these at length in one of my other classes, and we'll go over each individual tree care level in these areas. But we're going to start right now with planting. Getting your tree in the ground. How does it mean? How do these levels apply to something like this? Well, the generic method is dig a hole, plant your tree. If it comes with stakes, you may use those stakes that come with it and put it right next to the tree. Use the soil that was in the hole so that you're planting right away with what you got, and maybe pat down the soil. That's pretty much what the generic method is. That is not the urban farm method. We do not start that way. We will never recommend that. The basic urban farm method is we're going to use a 60-40 soil mix. So from the hole, you're going to take about 40% of what you've dug out, and you're going to mix it with about 60% of a new mixture of soil that's rich in organic material. But you need that balance of 60-40 so that your tree is getting used to what is already there, and it teaches your tree to grow out while it still has a good, healthy place to start. Then you're going to plant your tree. You're going to create a 6-foot basin. That is important when it starts talking about ground cover and mulch and watering. It's really an important step for us. And we don't recommend stakes. Well, unless the tree is kind of bendy, but then you're only going to use the supports for outside the tree hole, never next to the tree. So if you have this basic urban farm method and you're working with that and that works for you, great. But if you're ready to go up one more level, what we recommend is the intermediate. And you're going to add these steps while planting. You're going to dig a square hole. We talk about that in our planting, watering, and fertilizing class to tell you why it's so important. We go in depth on that. Nice pun. We go in depth on your hole there. And then you're going to add some starter amendments in your soil mixture and organic fertilizer. Now, our starter amendments are worm castings and azomite and 2 ounces of myco, but you're also going to add in that organic fertilizer. So 2 pounds of worm castings, 2 pounds of azomite minerals, and 2 pounds of fertilizer go in the hole for your standard tree, and 2 ounces of myco. And then if you are ready to go up another level, because this is good, this is what we really recommend. The next level is adding a little bit of the liquid amendments during your planting phase. Now, this is a decision that you're going to want to make before you bring your tree home. So which level, which method are you going to choose in your planting? You need to know that before you bring your tree home. But if you have the liquid amendments, you're going to use them while planting. And it's actually a little bit complicated. There's a formula, so we'll teach that in the planting, watering, and fertilizing class. But basically what you're going to do for potted trees is you're going to spray the hole, and you're like our citrus and stuff. You're going to spray the hole with a combination of the liquid amendments that we recommend, that we use. The High Creations products are amazing. And it'll kickstart the bioorganisms in that hole to be ready and teach your mycorrhiza and the roots to grow out to the hole and grow into the space that it's at, so that you have a nice healthy tree. Bare root trees are deciduous, stone fruits and apples and such. Those come as bare root, and they can really use a nurturing bath before they get planted into the soil. And so we have a method of soaking the roots with the liquid amendments. That is the ultra success method. And for more information on a full explanation on how to do that, you're going to want to take our planting, watering, and fertilizing class. We do have those on our calendar. Now, this is just talking about your levels. If you want to know how to apply those levels to those 6 areas, join me on either September 19th or October 4th, and we'll go over all 6 of those areas. We'll be able to take the time and answer your questions. It's a lot of fun. This is a new concept for us, so you'll help me work out all the kinks and make sure that my classes are explaining the way they're supposed to and they make sense for y'all. But here we are. We've got our 6 different areas. Just go to urbanfarm.org/events. And you can find those 2 classes for leveling up your tree care, and our other classes on what to know before you plant your tree, and planting, watering, and fertilizing, key classes that we recommend. I want to thank you. If any of the supplies that you want, you can be purchased at store.urbanfarm.org. And again, you can look for these symbols, most likely those last 3 symbols, to see which level you'd like to choose for the different areas that work for you. This is my fruit. Okay, excellent, I hope that made sense. I am so excited to be implementing this on the lot and in our other classes. I'm trying to make little logos, little icons that'll show this for our different levels. Like, this is the planting area, and these are the products for this level and that level. But it's going to take a little work for me to get it all organized.
Well, there you go. Cool. So we have a slide next for buying. So you want to talk about that real quick?
Well, shop. If you want to go ahead and order, you can order now. Again, if you are using the codes Kickoff 2022 or Kit 2022, they will be automatically entering the items. If for some reason it doesn't work, there may be a little bit of a glitch in what your trees are, because it doesn't count supplies. It only counts trees to get to that level. You can put a comment in the comment section, and I'll go ahead and take a look at it later. I will be looking at orders over the next several days to sort, organize. And when you place an order, all orders are going into a review stage first. And basically that gives me a chance to look at the order, see if anything needs to be adjusted, and decide whether or not it is a September pickup for citrus, January pickup for deciduous. If I need to split the two because I don't keep those in one order, or maybe if you have something that's going to be shipped, or even if you have a local pickup of something small, we do have local pickup in North Peoria, North Glendale for most of our small items. And we have a pickup in Mesa for foliar products and drip tape supplies. So
But
if you want one
not-
of those,
But not for the BioFlora 50 pounders.
just those items,
Right,
just those items.
And let's see, Perlman wanted to know if the buy three, get one free is available for the granular fertilizer. It is not.
No, we don't, it's too expensive.
Yeah, and we keep that price as good as we can get it. So
Yeah, we're able to buy in bulk, and because of the soil and the mulch, we move so much of it. And it's kind of, what do you call those things? Oh, loss leaders. They end up becoming loss leaders for us. So
yeah.
we end up using that. I almost forgot for that term.
All right.
All right. So local
somebody-
pickup of the BioFlora is at the nursery lot. September. We will be picking up the BioFlora in September at the nursery lot. They're 50-pound bags. I don't throw those in my truck and bring those around.
Right. And the lot is near 7th Street and Highland in Phoenix. Been using
Just south of Camelback.
just south, about 15 years been in there. So
Again, it's 7th Street, not 7th Avenue.
Exactly. Very good. So we have it's the Anna Apple video next. So let's go ahead and jump in and go ahead, Janice.
Address for pickup information and scheduling your appointments will come on the second email after it's gone through the review. Then we've got the right data. So watch your emails. You'll get one saying it's in review and a second that'll be telling you when your pickup is.
Yes. Cool. Anna Apples it is.
Here we are in the backyard next to my amazing Anna apple tree. As you can tell, it is incredibly productive. We'll get maybe 400 pounds of apples off of this tree this year. Remember, the only place that lack lives is between our ears, because when we look to nature, look at the abundance that's here. Here's what I do with the apples. Make dehydrated apple chips. We can make apple cider, both hard apple cider and apple juice cider. We can make apple cider vinegar. We can make apple sauce. We've done all of that with the apples off of this tree. This tree doesn't follow my urban orchard guidelines to keep the tree small so we can harvest it from standing on the ground. Well, that is on purpose, because in the summertime, the sun sets right about there. So what this is doing is this is giving me a nice shade structure for the back patio in the late afternoon in the summer, which is really cool. So that's one thing it does. Number two thing it does, again, it gives me leaves for mulch. Number three, it gives me fruit. The fourth thing for me on this tree is I can actually climb it. Yeah, okay, I know, I'm 60 years old, but I want to climb this tree. I wanted an apple tree in my yard that I could actually climb, and this one is it. So this year we are going to have an amazing amount of apple chips, because that's mostly what I do with it. The other thing is we make applesauce, as I mentioned earlier, that Heidi uses as the butter additive to a lot of recipes that she uses, so that we don't have to use as much butter. So there you go. Plant yourself an apple tree. They will bless you with an amazing amount of fruit.
Awesome, awesome. So we actually, Janice, we actually had somebody in the chat want to know about Foliar Feeds, and I said that's coming up next. So go ahead.
We have two friends that came on the lot a few years ago and wanted to introduce us to their product. And at first we were like really busy. It was kind of like, really, we're chaotically busy right now. We don't have time to talk to you. Greg was busy with another project. And so I took the stuff home and started using it and saw results right away. So I want to tell you that I just love these guys. We have Anthony and Derek's.
Hold on. Literally, you said you saw results right away.
Oh yeah,
I brought some with me to my gardens here, and I use it once a week on my gardens. And you can literally see results within 24 to 48 hours. It's that mind blowing.
Yeah, the science behind this, the chemistry, the biochemistry behind foliar products is for me fascinating. I was a chemistry student before I went into this world, and I love the way the body, the organisms interact. It's lovely. I love it. So when they were telling me what they had and how it worked, and the fact that it's locally made and it's organic and just everything was selling me on it. So I started using it. So let me tell you, Anthony, or Robert Dominguez, goes by Anthony. He's an Arizona native. He was raised in Gila Bend, so he's local. You know, he's got his focus down here, his heart's here. He holds a BS in microbiology from University of Arizona, and he's always been interested in the how and the why. Definitely relate to that, and especially when it comes to microbes. As a microbiologist, Anthony designs and develops microbial products that will become the new standard, he says. And to Anthony, everything matters from the start of the journey to the final destination. Now, Derek's, he's a native of Anniston, Alabama, and holds a bachelor's of science in environmental science. And, he's always been passionate about the environment and determined to restore the environment, contaminated soil back to the way it's supposed to be, those soil that's been, damaged by, pollutants and stuff, dangerous pollutants. He's been working on trying to solve that issue. But over the course of 13 years, Derek's has mastered formulations and applications of applied microbiology, inventing patents and developing microbial products along the way. These two gentlemen are fabulous, and we have a great little presentation from them. Hi, guys. This is Janice, and I'm talking to Anthony and Derek's from High Creations. I'm so excited to have you guys here talking about one of my favorite subjects, foliar feeding. And about 4 or 5 years ago, we started bringing your products in and using them on our own places. Greg and I both tried out and had phenomenal results. And we've added education to our program about the importance of foliar feeding. And together, the three of us have created or enhanced a nutrition program talking about this. And the whole thing has transformed what has been happening in our customers' orchards. So I am really excited about talking to both of you, or actually listening to both of you today, explaining the importance and the fundamentals of foliar feeding.
Thanks for having us.
I've loved working with you guys. You guys have been so responsive to the needs. And as our customers have sent us questions, we've reached out to you and you've helped us develop this program so much. I think that what you are doing for the customers of the urban farm is phenomenal. And so thank you.
Absolutely. That's just part of our passion. I definitely feel like we've grown to love fruit trees, especially, Derek's grew up in Alabama. I grew up in Arizona, and he tells me about fruit that I've never even heard of. And so that's why I started planting it in the backyard.
Awesome.
Yes.
We have this new program in our system where we talk about levels of care and on this in the different areas. And it is such a crucial element of success that we have implemented into our requirements, foliar feeding. So I am excited to hear what you have to say on this. I'm going to step back and let you guys take it over.
All right.
Thank you.
So the title of our presentation today is the fundamentals of foliar feeding. And our goal when we created this presentation was to have plenty of information for everyone, but we also wanted to make it basic enough for everyone to understand and easy to remember. Just a little bit of who we are. My name is Anthony Dominguez. I'm a microbiologist. I have a degree from the University of Arizona in microbiology.
Hello, everyone. I am Derek Zellers. I'm also the co-founder of High Creations, and I have a Bachelor's of Science in Environmental Science, which I definitely like to focus more on the soil aspect.
What is foliar feeding? So foliar feeding is a technique that was developed to deliver fertilizers, nutrients, minerals, all in a spray form. Now, there are a few different ways we can go about applying it. There's some different tools and equipment. We'll touch on that later. But why is it going to work for us? Well, because plants, trees, they can all absorb nutrients through their leaves, barks, and branches. So why would we foliar feed? What's the reasoning behind it? Basically, we're from all different parts of the world. Not all of us are going to have the same soil types. Some of us may be lacking. Some of us may be in excesses of certain types of nutrients. The idea behind foliar feeding is that you're trying to create a complete nutrient solution that you can then apply to your tree to help bridge any nutritional gaps that your trees might be missing, depending on your soil type and location, wherever you are in the world. What would we actually recommend using? Well, these are our high creation products. This is part of the wisdom line. And what you're seeing right here is our foliar feeding pack. It consists of Sol, which is a liquid humic acid derivative. We've got Essence, which is our pure liquid kelp. And we have Noble Gills, our liquid fish fertilizer. So that one is an actual fertilizer. It has a little bit of nitrogen, potassium, and phosphorus.
The wisdom line, we have Soul, Essence, and Noble Gills. So what makes Soul so unique when it comes to foliar feeding? Well, Soul contains about 60 trace minerals. All of those would be in their available form. So you're definitely going to be able to bridge that gap where you're missing some of those micronutrients. But what makes Soul so more important than just having 60 trace minerals is its molecular structure. Its molecular structure is so small that it's able to bind all 60 of those trace minerals and pass them directly to the cells of the plant. And this doesn't just include the leaves or the bark, it also includes the fruit. We have our product, which is Essence, which is a pure liquid kelp, and we all love kelp, but we love it more because what it contains. It contains amino acid. It contains solids, which acts as a great microbe food. And so you're actually going to be able to enhance your good bacteria while you're doing foliar feeding as well. But more importantly, it contains hormones, which is called plant hormones or plant growth regulators. And this is what we're going to be using to help make the tree grow nice and strong. We're going to help develop your fruit properly. And then we have our Noble Gills. Everyone loves fish emulsions. You probably just don't love the smell of it, but we all love the performance of it. And the good thing about Noble Gills, it has a high dose of calcium and magnesium and a digestible form of nitrogen. And why is that digestible form of nitrogen so important? Because it doesn't get lost. The plant will actually utilize every drop of it. Most like some fertilizers that contain high nitrogens, it gets evaporated, it gets washed off the plants, it gets washed out of the soil. Not with Noble Gills. The plant will absorb it and feed off of that product as long as you're foliar feeding.
Another thing I'd like to talk about is definitely the quality of the product, especially Essence. Now, there are tons of kelp products out there on the market, but we do not use any harsh chemicals to separate it or extract these plant hormones. They're very important, as Derek was talking about, but we don't use anything to separate them. It is pure ground up kelp versus something you might notice on the shelf. It's going to be extracted using something harsh like potassium hydroxide. Like you said, Sol really helps deliver everything. I felt that is such an important product. Even if you use Sol alone, it is just so beneficial. Noble Gills, we actually go out and search for sardine. They go deeper down in the water. It's colder, so they're going to produce a better protein content and a better fat content. So we're really, really picky about what ingredients go into our products. So we really do care, and they really are of the highest quality. So what are some of the reasons why we should foliar feed? Let's talk about faster response time. We mentioned that not all of our soils are going to have the same amount of nutrients. They might have more, they may have less. But say you do see a nutrient deficiency on your plant, maybe you can diagnose, maybe you can't. But a really good response would be to make it a foliar solution, spray and spray directly where you are seeing that deficiency. That's where it's missing the nutrients. Using soil and directly deliver those nutrients into the plant cells. So wherever it's lacking, it will not lack anymore. And that's where you get a faster response time. That's where you see the change happen a little bit faster, where your plants are going to recover a little bit more, just in case something does happen. We can't control nature, we can't control the ground, but we do have preventative measures to help our trees be very healthy and survive the seasons.
One of the biggest complaints that we get is that, oh, my fruit tree produced flowers, but they all fell off. And so by using this foliar package, particularly with the product essence and those plant growth regulators, we're going to be able to make your fruit trees produce more flowers that are going to last longer. So in the event that we get a big windstorm or a big sandstorm, then you lose most of your flowers. Well, by using a foliar application, particularly with the Wisdom line, you're going to be able to retain more of those flowers, which is going to be a great thing, because the more flowers you have, the better chance that you're going to get a good pollinated fruit tree, even flowering. So that means that you're going to have more flowers that gets pollinated, which means you're going to have evening ripening, evening development on your fruit. Everyone wants to have fruit that all looks the same, that's growing in the same size, that's going to ripen evenly. And this all comes from a foliar feeding by producing those flowers in the very, very beginning.
And it's not just fruit trees. We can do this on tomatoes, we can do this on peppers, cucumbers, anything that's going to produce a flower. We can do a foliar application and have them open up at the same time, which is more likely chance they'll be pollinated at the same time and they'll be ready and ripen all at the same time. It's very cool and very unique how we can manipulate some of these plants into getting them to give us a nice large harvest.
And what some people may not realize is that by producing more flowers, that you're also increasing the shelf life, even if your fruit is very, very tiny. That's the process of where we start to influence the fruit with foliar feeding. And so in the end, when it's time to harvest your fruit, you're going to have a longer shelf life. You're definitely going to have a much sweeter fruit. But more importantly, you are preparing the tree for next year's fruit. That's something that people tend to not understand, but fruit trees go through their own cycle as well. And usually it takes a really long time when those nutrients have to be absorbed through the soil. And so what we like to do, because of that one product sow that takes the products directly to the cells of the plant, we're able to start influencing next year's production of fruit even before you see it on the actual tree.
Yeah, that's something different we do. We actually recommend foliar feeding on the off season, and not a lot of people like that. They were wondering, well, if the tree's not producing any fruit, it's not flowering, it's not growing, it's dormant, why would we do that? And that has to do a lot with the essence, that how we can store up all those plant hormone and all those sugars, and when they're needed in the spring or whenever the plants or the trees come out of dormancy, they're already available, they've already been stored in the tree. So it's kind of a whole circle. You can't just start at production, you actually have to do a little bit of maintenance in the off season, but it really does help with the sweeter fruit, your longer shelf lives. I felt like that's absolutely important. And we've known trees that weren't producing and we foliar fed them in the winter, which is unheard of, and they came out that next spring beautiful, right?
Absolutely.
Hi, guys.
I guess it helps if I unmute. Love it, love it. So there were several people asking about whether you can use it on vegetables. You can absolutely use it on vegetables. Janice and Derek's and Anthony put together a vegetable fertilizing calendar that comes with the foliar feed when you buy it. And we can actually ship that. If you're outside of Arizona, we can ship it to you.
Yeah, we can ship the foliar products to you anywhere in the United States. And when you buy the combo, you get a downloadable PDF that has the fruit tree schedule and the garden schedule. Or if you want a laminated copy, you can always add that to your cart as well.
Woot, woot.
Well, we're running out of time. I'm glad we are able to shorten.
Right. I think you're going to give away. Yep, there it is. Draw and giveaway. What are we giving away this time?
Draw and giving away next. All right, let me see. We have a mulberry bush. And that is for random Sean Mahoney. Sean Mahoney, you get a mulberry bush. A planting starter kit for Gary Hensley. Gary Hensley gets a planting starter kit.
Nice.
And Kelly Lentine, you get a pruning book.
Oh, that's a good pruning book, man. It was written in 1947 and updated a few years ago.
Right. All right. Do we want to do more? Or is that enough? I actually
do one more.
Do one more. Oh, I think I lost track of what I'm giving away here. We have a pruning book, another pruning book, and a mulberry bush. James Rothwell, you get a pruning book. And Kevin Fulkerson, you get a mulberry bush.
Nice. So Bill wants to know, is that the extent of the foliar? Is there a longer version available? Yes, we have all kinds of education in your fruit tree education area. We also had them on the chat a couple of months ago. So if you send me an email, greg@urbanfarm.org, I can send you the YouTube link for that.
They are regular visitors on our program. Definitely have, and we're going to do more on those products during the classes as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, thank you.
All right. All right. Here's the dwarf. So we saw the Pakistani mulberries. Now we're going to see the dwarf black. And what makes the dwarf black a dwarf is the berry, not the bush. Just keep that in mind. So let's take it away, TW.
So these are dwarf black mulberries. Now they don't seem very dwarf. In fact, you're going to see the tree version here in a little while. I say the dwarf part is the berry. We get about a dime-sized berry on them, and they're amazingly sweet and so prolific. We literally get pounds and pounds of berries off of these. I like to use them as replacements for oleanders. People plant oleanders here a lot. This is a better thing. It gives us food that way. Come on in and check the harvest. We're getting toward the end of the harvest on this one, but this is what they look like right here. Oh my gosh, that's amazing. Now let's go take a look at the tree version of the dwarf black mulberry. These I planted about 4 years ago. They were the size of a pencil when I planted them. Now they're about 5 inches in diameter and 15 feet tall. 4 weeks ago, there were 100 times that many berries up there. It was so packed with berries that it was mind-blowing. But that's a tree version.
Okay. So Janice, I think you're going to review the specials for today. Remember, if you had previously purchased from us, you can email fruittreesingular@urbanfarm.org and we can get that applied to your order. Go ahead, Janice.
Spend $150 on fruit trees and plants. This is the green stuff, the living stuff. During our kickoff week, then you get a free tree starter kit. This is a single collection of the starter amendments, mycorrhiza, worm castings, and azomite, all in one little bag, and you can use that while planting. Use the code KIT2022. Spend $350 on our fruit trees and plants during our kickoff week, and you get a 50-pound bag of BioFlora dry crumbles. That's our organic granular fertilizer. We've been using it for years. Love, love, love it. We have 2 different organic fertilizers. So if you only have 1 or 2 trees, you can use the Super Mix The Tanks Super Mix, fabulous product, but it only comes in a 10-pound bag. If you get 5 or more trees, then you're going to want to get the 50-pound bag, and that is Bioflora Dry Crumbles. Excellent products, both of them. The code Kickoff 2022 will get you that 50-pound bag of Bioflora Dry Crumbles.
Excellent. Mary Jo says, my dwarf mulberry bushes leaves are turning yellow. They're probably starting to get ready to go dormant, but you can always send me, greg@urbanfarm.org, a picture and say, hey, Greg, what's going on with my tree? And I'll do my best to get back with you.
I think that could be a little bit of shock from our heat, and maybe whether or not the water is consistent or sufficient enough. So if you've got too much water, too little water, you can have that. It could just be heat stress. We are going through some tough times right now, weather-wise, here in the Valley.
And foliar feeding is a magic bullet. It will help that so much.
Yes.
I can't say that enough. I was skeptical. I have to tell you, I was skeptical at first when they brought it along. It's like, yeah, all right, we'll try the Noble Gills, the fish-based one, and leave it at that. And Janice jumped in and implemented what they suggested, and it is mind-blowing the difference it made for me.
Now, a question just came through about the temperatures. Temperatures are key for foliar feeding. The way our trees breathe has to do with the temperature in the air and sometimes the humidity. If it gets too hot, it's not a good time for them to be uptaking the ingredients, and you'll just switch to drench feeding. But yes, the program is the same.
Woo. So now, so let's go on to our next slide. We have a couple of events coming up that are mind-blowing. If you haven't been to our Great American Seed Up, this picture behind that's 300 people scooping seeds in a 10,000 square foot room. Go to greatamericanseedup.org/Phoenix Seed Up. It is a bulk buying, open pollinated seed bazaar that we do in Phoenix once a year. This will be the 8th, yes, the 8th year that we've done it. And man, if you don't buy any seeds, just come down and check it out. It is mind-boggling, the energy and the seeds. We do over 100, well, we do about 100 varieties of open pollinated seeds. You get to scoop your own. The scoops are super inexpensive. We've designed the scoops to be up to 10 times the amount of seeds in a regular packet of seeds.
At least.
And the prices of scooping seeds are, is it 75 cents, $1.50, and 2 1/4, something like that, Janice, right?
I think something like that.
Yeah, something like that. So you just check it out. greatamericanseedup.org/Phoenix Seed Up. Check it out, and we'll put that link in the chat here in a little while. And then the other thing that's coming up in the spring next year is our permaculture design course, or also called a PDC. You can find out about it at urbanfarm.org/PDC. That's permaculture design course. Don Titmus and I have been offering these permaculture design courses in Phoenix since 2005. So what's that, 17 years? And basically, I like to call permaculture the art and science of working with the flow of nature. So how do we work in the flow of nature to make things work better? And the permaculture design course is a 72-hour, so it spans 5 weekends, where you get to dive in and learn about permaculture. So I recommend you check that out.
Now that the shutdown has kind of released and we're kind of figuring out how to interact with each other with all the pandemic stuff kind of settled, what we've done is we've opened up the permaculture program. We've got the design course in the spring, and we're looking at setting up some workshops in the fall. So if you're interested in any of that, get in touch with us, and we'll start sending out some information.
Cool. So let's see, what's next? Prize giveaways. You're giving away some more stuff, Janice.
Oh, who was the last person I just gave to? I think I gave to Kevin, right? I did.
Okay,
all right. Randomize. Here we go. Margaret Vermeulen, you've got a mulberry bush coming at you. What?
Go ahead.
For our fruit tree, the next fruit tree is for Fazia Tongue. last name Tung, Fazia. You get a fruit tree. What were you going to say, Greg?
I was going to say, when are we going to give away another garden consult?
I saved that for the end. That's one of the last ones.
Okay, cool. All right, perfect.
All right.
Fantastic.
All right.
All right, let's talk about citrus. So here it is in a nutshell. In 2010, we, the citrus growing community throughout the entire United States, realized something called the citrus greening disease, and it is pretty much single-handedly taken out citrus in Florida. And so what the US Department of Agriculture did is they pretty much locked down the country for transporting citrus fruit and citrus trees. And they required any growers that were going to grow and sell citrus to spend a lot of money on infrastructure and build greenhouse structures. Our grower, Sunset Citrus Nursery down in Yuma, has, I think they're 80,000 square foot greenhouse structures, and they built multiple ones. So that was the first thing that kind of hit the citrus industry. And when that happened, we got down to one commercial grower in the state. We don't have any other commercial growers in the state except Sunset Citrus Nursery. And then the pandemic hit a couple of years ago, and everybody wanted trees. So they sold out for a couple of years there. And then in April, I was on the phone with our grower at Sunset Citrus, and she said, "Greg, we got a problem." I said, "What?" And she said, "I haven't gotten any pots since August." So the pots were on a container somewhere. And so we went into August not knowing if we were going to have any citrus. So Janice, my partner Heidi, and I kind of had a conversation, and actually Heidi suggested, "Well, why don't you just pre-order trees?" And I said, "Well, we don't do it that way. We pre-sell trees and then order trees." So we decided to jump in and just pre-order trees. And we placed a large order, about what we sold last year. And we are running out of things already on the citrus end, but we will have them available. Apparently, the order that we placed is being filled. The supplier, Stacy, told me, she said, it was over the course of a weekend when we placed order about 3 weeks ago. She said we had 35 orders and I'm sold out. So that's the citrus story. And if you want citrus, I'd order them. We may or may not have them available, anywhere really. So, and then the next thing I want to talk about is our guarantee. We actually have a guarantee. It works differently than most guarantees. What we do is we do lots and lots of free education. We do an amazing amount of free education. In the next 8 weeks, we're probably going to give, we're giving each one of our 5 classes at least twice. So we're giving 10 classes. I think we're giving 14 classes over the course of the next 8 weeks so that you can get in, get your questions answered, and learn really what it takes to get a tree growing. Because you can't just put it in a hole, put the gravel back around and walk away. If you do that, you're going to kill the tree. We have the silver bullets of how to successfully grow fruit trees in the desert. And so we do all of this free education. You can make a donation to us if you want. And Janice will put that donate link in the chat box. But the education is free. And we really expect you to take our classes and understand what it takes to take care of that tree. So once the tree, and this is really the important piece, once the tree is in the ground, and if you see something that looks odd to you, the tree looks like it's struggling, the moment you see that, I want you to take a picture of it and send me the picture, greg@urbanfarm.org. That way we can diagnose what's going on with that tree before it ever dies. And we'll work with you on that level. You might have to remind me occasionally because I get a lot of emails, as you can imagine. You might have to remind me to reach back out to you, but we'll work with you on that level. if the tree then ultimately dies, we will replace the tree at half cost. Why half cost? Because we feel like we're doing everything that we can to educate you, and we want you to do everything that you can to make that tree thrive. And a big part of what's going to make them thrive is the foliar feeds. I guess we can't say that enough. So that's how our guarantee works. If you go to urbanfarm.org/guarantee, there's a whole page that Janice put together about it. And yeah, there you go.
I'm going to go get that page, make sure I got the right link.
Okay.
Helps if you spell it right.
Right.
So basically, one of the things we're doing right now is an early bird program. I wanted to tell you a little bit about that. The early bird program has something that Greg's been doing for a long time to try and navigate our end of making the purchase that we do with our growers, especially the deciduous growers. And in order to make this work, we need to basically get the best deal. We need to send money to them kind of early, and we want to make sure that we sell as much of this as possible early, and we pass that savings on. So our early bird season for our deciduous and some of our supplies is from now through the end of October. You have options for early bird bundles. That's where you get a couple of apples and get a savings, or a couple of apricots, get a savings, 3 peaches, get a savings, a plum and a blend, get a savings. We also have one where you can pick 3 different trees, certain trees together, and get a savings. Those early bird bundles will close when either we run out of those trees, which has happened, or if we hit that date, the end of October, we shut that down, then you no longer get those options. But you can take advantage of that now during, just go to Order Trees Now, urbanfarm.org, Order Trees Now. It's basically our store, and you can start looking at our trees and supplies. So, and Hannah is waiting to help if you are having questions that we are not answering during this event. Hannah can answer most of those questions on placing your order. Just call 602-248-9256, extension 700. She's waiting for you.
Nice.
I love Hannah. She's so sweet.
Right.
Very helpful.
Thank you, Hannah. Woo-hoo. All right. Okay, so we have one quick video. Another minute-long video that we're going to play, and then we're going to take some, do some giveaways, give away some prizes, and then take questions from people, and then we will have an additional video toward the end. So go ahead and play the best time to plant a tree video, TW.
So they say the best time to plant a tree is 20 years ago or right now. Here's one that's right now. Here's one that's almost 20 years old. It's the best thing that you can do for your family. It will nurture you. It'll nurture your family. It'll change your local food system, and you'll be able to get fruit out of your yard every month of the year if you plant it that way. Just get out and plant trees, grow some food.
There you go. There you go. All right. So I think now, Miss Janice, we have a bunch of things to give away, don't we?
We do. I'm answering one question. Somebody had a question about foliar feeding being the wrong time of the day, being really hot outside. Yes. Yes, it is absolutely true that during certain temperature ranges, during certain times of the day, foliar feeding can be problematic on your trees. So take our class, Planting, Watering, and Fertilizing. We go over that. Take our fruit tree classes, our chats, monthly chats. We go over it during that. We don't have enough time today to go in depth on all these topics that we've covered. So join us in our classes. We go through more, and we have our Q&A classes as well. So let's see, prize collection, prize. All right. I think I got up to line 10. I think I've given away 10 things so far. 9
All right,
things.
nice,
Double
nice,
check, 9
nice.
things. All
Oh,
right.
you gotta tell people if you're a prize winner for current
Well, I was going to give away some more. I'm not ready to do
all
this
right,
one
cool.
yet.
Sorry, slap my hand.
There you go. Okay, let's do this. I will tell you how to get these as soon as I've done giving away some more. A mulberry bush for Kelly. I'm going to say this wrong. I'm sorry. Tijon. Kelly Tijon. My apologies, but you get a mulberry bush. We've got a planting starter kit for Andrea Rubka. Andrea was one of the ladies who emailed us this morning that didn't get the link, and we sent her the link this morning. Good. I'm so glad you made it, Andrea.
Yeah, perfect.
Nina Bruns got a fruit tree. Congratulations. Douglas Hart gets a pruning book. Where am I at? Okay, Nicole Kuhn gets a pruning book. Melissa Brakeman Miyamoto. I'm so sorry if I'm saying your name wrong. Please forgive me. Melissa gets a planting starter kit. Greg, I've got 9 things left. Should I go through all of them?
Oh, might as well. All
right. We've got a consult for Pat Witter. Pat's been a customer for a while.
So let me tell everybody about consults. We spent almost an hour on the phone with you, looking at pictures of your yard, looking at it through Google Earth. You will learn so much about your landscape in a conversation with me about that. You can buy them on our shopping cart. I've been offering a money back guarantee on them for at least 10 years, and I've never had to give money back because everybody walks away happy.
Inspired.
I did one this week, and they told me in an email afterwards, oh my gosh, Greg, thank you so much. We are so much more inspired about our landscape now and getting it implemented. So
nice. All right. So then we have a few items left. Jim Whitfield gets a mulberry bush. Amber Bailey gets a planting starter kit.
Nice.
Eileen Young gets a fruit tree. Leslie Beauchamp gets a planting starter kit. Jamie Oskin gets a mulberry bush. And Karen Starbowski, sorry, my name, I had to open my screen a little bit. Karen Starbowski gets a fruit tree. There you go.
Nice. Let's just talk real quickly about.
I want to show how to get them.
Okay,
my slides.
That. Perfect.
This is my slides.
Yes, please.
Okay, so how do you claim your prizes? If you are a current customer, you've already ordered something, you have an order in the cart, or you're going to be placing a cart, basically put in a note on your next order with what you think you've won, and I will go back and add it during the review process. So just put a little comment in there. Hey, I want a fruit tree, or hey, I want a pruning book. I'll go back, I'll check my list, and I'll check everybody out. If you are one of the lucky winners of a consult, if you are already a current customer, I will go in the system and I will create that process to give you the consult, because that's a standalone by itself. It doesn't go with the other orders. So that's really easy. If you're already a current customer, we'll go ahead and just put it on your next order or send me a note. If you already have placed all your orders, send me a note and I'll add it. Next slide. If you are a new customer, if you do not have something in the system and you're not intending to put something in the system, I can't give you the prize until you are in our system. So you can either place an order and add a comment in your order that says, hey, I won this. And that's the easiest way. Or if you really don't want to place an order and you just want to claim your prize, then I still need your full contact information. So send an email to me, jan@urbanfarm.org. Let me know what you think you've won. Include your first name and your last name, your full address, and your phone number. And what I'll do is I'll create an order for you with instructions for pickup or scheduling. And one of the things I wanted to tell you was the the prizes are going to be, you need to claim them before the end of the year. So.
Cool.
And they're only for pickup here.
Excellent.
Thank you.
All right, so let's talk about a planting kit. You've mentioned that, and there's a little bit of mystery around that for somebody that's just listening in. We have a very specific way, and we talk about this in planting, watering, and fertilizing to plant your tree. I'm going to give you the very short version of it. You want to dig a hole 2 foot by 2 foot by a foot deep. Take 40% of that dirt out of the hole and put it in a wheelbarrow. Put 2 bags of some kind of planting mix in the wheelbarrow and mix it up. That planting mix is adding organic matter into the planting hole to help the trees thrive and get started. Then additionally, the planting kit is azomite, which is a micronutrient dense vitamin. It's got 70 different micronutrients in it for your tree. And that's 2 pounds of azomite, 2 pounds of worm casting. Worm castings are poop that has nutrients and life in it. And then 2 ounces of mycorrhiza. And mycorrhiza is a fungal inoculant for your trees. So you mix all of that up in the wheelbarrow. You plant your tree with that concoction. Yes, Janice?
Throw in 2 pounds of organic fertilizer.
Oh, yes. And 2 pounds of organic fertilizer in the bottom of the hole. That's something new we started last year.
Well, you've been teaching to keep the fertilizer. We just don't open up a bag of fertilizer and putting it in our starter amendments because we have smaller bags.
Perfect. So get the tree planted, and then for sure, don't ever send me a picture of a tree you planted with gravel all the way up to the trunk. It'll kill it. The rule here is 6 foot diameter basin, 6 inches of woody mulch minimum. The more the better. And somebody asked earlier on, what's the purpose of the woody mulch? The woody mulch breaks down at the interface between the dirt and the woody mulch. It becomes really healthy soil. It acts like a sponge. It holds onto water. It insulates the soil. And somebody asked earlier, I can't use woody mulch because of termites. Well, I had termites at the urban farm. I used woody mulch all over the place. And interestingly enough, they put bait traps around my house, the people that treated my house, and several of them were in the woody mulch basins. Never was there ever any action for termites in the woody mulch basins. So woody mulch turns to soil so quickly that the termites don't really have any, they're not interested in it. So don't worry about that.
I don't think that the termites can compete with the other items that are in our ecosystem when we have a healthy ecosystem.
Right.
Personally.
Marty, so we are actually taking a few questions now. Marty says she needs to take her trees in when winter comes. I'm not sure why. Can you tell me why in the chat box, why you need to take your trees in, especially in Arizona? Let's see
Not
here.
allowed to garden here. Ooh.
Why
Just
can't
keep things in carton containers? Okay.
Oh, she's in Delaware. Well, there you go. I know very little, Marty, about trees in Delaware. I'm learning about trees in North Carolina right now. Let's see here. Why can't Dan wants to know that, was that where you're going? Why can't we plant stakes in the planting hole? You can put them in the planting hole, but a stake right lashed to the tree, it dwarfs the tree. It negatively impacts the health of the tree. Trees build resiliency by being able to rock back and forth. The stronger trees are the ones that rock back and forth some. It builds the trunk tensile strength. If you leave the stake lashed to the tree, it doesn't allow it to do that, and it stunts the growth of the tree. So if you need to stake a tree, we have a tree staking document in your member area. If you need to, go ahead.
And we've got a class, we've had a couple of different classes on that. Those classes, those replays are in the member area as well.
Perfect. There you go.
And how do you get to your member area? She asks.
So first of all, you have to have bought something from our shopping cart. And then you get a link. and go to that link and log in, and it's the fruit tree program.
Well, if you have become a member in our area, you're automatically tagged access to our portal, our fruit tree member portal. And the link to that is on the home page of our shopping cart. Up at the top, it says member resources.
Mm-hmm.
If you've bought anything from us, you're a fruit tree program member.
Yeah, exactly.
Awesome. What are we doing on our schedule?
All right, we're way early, believe it or not. That's odd.
I think we missed something.
Oh my gosh. Dina says, I love these questions. I have a 1-year-old fig tree in full sun doing great. However, I have mushrooms growing at the base. If you have mushrooms growing anywhere in your yard, you're doing something right. Mushrooms are fungal life. And so you're doing great. Mushrooms are great here.
You know, we actually have a really cute blog article on, what is this dog vomit in my yard?
Oh, yes, yes.
On our website. I will go ahead and look that up. This is a really fun thing. It pops up in healthy ecosystems, usually after a rain. So let me find that article.
Marty says, for those termites in the wood chips, there won't be any termites in the wood chips because the wood chips go through a wood chipper. The branches go through a wood chipper, and any termite that gets through a wood chipper is, deserves a medal. So Dan wants to know if deciduous trees take full sun in Phoenix. So there's two things. That's a great question. There's two things to consider here: full sunlight or full sun heat. What we have to do in growing anything in the desert is increase the sunlight, decrease the heat. And in our classes, we talk about many ways to reduce the heat impact. Hot microclimates are gravel, block walls, and concrete. So if you have a gravel, block wall, concrete area, you're going to have to work harder to keep the space cooler. The woody mulch around the basin will help a lot. That's number one. Two thing you want to do for trees in a really hot microclimate is wrap it with a tree wrap or paint it. I'm not a fan of painting, but wrapping it with a tree wrap. The number three thing you want to do in the basin, you want to plant cowpeas, which we give away in January, or sweet potatoes, which you buy organic sweet potatoes at the grocery store, and let them grow as a ground cover around the base of your trees. And you specifically want one of those two because they're on the same watering schedule as your trees. And what I found in the front yard of the urban farm in 2017 was it was 150 degrees at ground level. It was 130 degrees, 6 inches down. And underneath the sweet potatoes in my front yard, it was 89 degrees. That's the difference between them making it and the trees not making it. So planting a ground cover will help a lot.
You are covering several different levels right there.
Yep, I am.
The mulch would be the intermediate, or no, the mulch is basic. And sweet potatoes is intermediate. And if you want to go guild, then you're going advanced. There you
go. What is your opinion of the chip drops that are available? If you can use, so chipdrop.com is a place to get woody mulch for free. Or if you pay the dump fee, there's a dump fee to dump it in your driveway. Here's what you have to know about chip drop. You're going to get a lot. You could get up to 30 cubic feet. 30 cubic yards, not feet, 30 cubic yards. 30 cubic feet is a cubic yard. 27 cubic feet is a cubic yard, but close enough. So just know if you get a chip drop, you're going to get a lot and you'll need to use them. I love chip drop. I think it is one of the coolest things that has ever been thought up.
You can see pictures on Facebook. You can see pictures in some of our classes of chip drop. I started my yard with a chip drop, and it was really great. Although I needed to kind of piecemeal mine in. It was a little bit too much for me at one time based on how busy I was. So I ended up going through the bags that I get through the urban farm. But cost-wise, chip drop is free. It's fabulous. We are not here to tell you to spend a whole bunch of money. We'd like to help you figure out a way to do it as economically wise as possible. So chip drop is an awesome resource.
Amen to that. Somebody wants to know 6-foot ring radius or diameter. Minimum 6-foot diameter of your 6 inches and 6-foot diameter basin around your fruit tree. So 6-foot diameter, bigger is better. So there's several people that have posted about, well, here's one from S. Craft about leaf miners attacking their citrus trees. What we suggest is that just like with humans, the healthier you are, the less susceptible you're going to be to these things. The healthier your trees are, the less, and for that matter, your garden plants, the healthier they are, the less impact you're going to have with bugs, leaf miners, that kind of stuff. Foliar feed makes the trees healthier, and therefore they're less susceptible to pests and bugs. So work on making your trees healthier with your 6-foot diameter basin, lots of woody mulch, regular fertilizing, regular foliar feeding. You do that and you're going to be blown away at the difference it makes.
I want to talk a little bit about classes that we teach.
Okay.
Greg teaches one how to choose a fruit tree, and it basically talks about the decisions and the why a rootstock is important, why the particular variety is important, how our chill hours make an impact on our deciduous trees. That information, everything that you kind of want to know while you're sitting there going, man, I want a fruit tree, but I don't know which one. That class will help you figure out which one, or if you're like, I already have this one, what would go well, or should I add another one? Really great class if you're in that stage.
And that class is called What You Need to Know Before You Buy Your Fruit Trees.
Right. And we have it 3 times live. We're presenting the class, and will be available for Q&A if nothing else. And then it'll also be available for replay. Another class that is helpful for learning some of the answers to some of the questions we're seeing here is absolute must: planting, watering, and fertilizing. Yes. Now, this class is a culmination of several different classes that Greg has been giving over the years. Now that I'm here, I've been adding a little bit more in my section, and we work together and we talk about key elements about how to plant, how often and how much to water, how and how much or what to fertilize, which includes foliar feeding. So some of these questions that are coming in about foliar feeding, the drench, the granular fertilizing, we go over that in depth in that class. We're also there for Q&A. So our Q&A classes help. And then trying to decide, because I know that some people are like, oh my gosh, this is just so much. Where do I start? Well, planting is the first thing you do. So we want to make sure that you have all the information you have so you can figure out what level of care you want to take for planting. And I highly encourage you go for the advanced level, but if you can't, at least go for the intermediate. And then you can make some decisions. And you know what? You may go all out on planting. You may just figure out that I'm ready to do everything for planting. But then life gets in the way and I can't exactly do everything that I want to do, that I need to do. Where am I going to make some give and take but still have the healthy, productive tree that I want? The levels of care class will help you navigate that. What I do at the Urban Farm, I have bursts of crazy, chaotic time. I am so busy. I don't get out in my yard very often. I have to make a decision on which area gets my attention first. And that's where I've been able to kind of come up with this class. But other times I've got lots of time and I can really, put my energy in and I get to see the rewards, and I go out in my garden and I go out in my tree, especially in the spring. I love going out in my yards in the spring and see that new life, and I can see the results of what I'm doing. So that's the levels of care class. And then what supplies? Well, you know what? You've made a decision on what level of care you want to apply. Now, what do I get to go with it? How do I make a decision when I'm going in there? We get a lot of questions. How much mulch do I need? How much soil do I need? Which foliar feeding do I need? That's that class. One of the key things about the Urban Farm program, the one main driving force that really locked me into joining the Urban Farm and becoming part of it, is the commitment that comes through with our actions and our availability to help you answer these questions. If Greg wasn't like that, I wouldn't be working here.
Yeah, that's really the whole point. My goal has always been to, well, first of all, was to get 500 fruit trees planted in 1999 and 2000.
You've done that.
We've done that. We've last count, I think we've sold sold and delivered about 60,000 fruit trees in the Phoenix area, right?
Yeah.
And you know,
At
be
least.
available to help people be successful. Yeah. So
Pickup. Let's talk about how they do a pickup, Greg.
oh yes. So we have a unique business by which we spend the year educating. And then you pre-order fruit trees, and just like a Christmas tree lot, we're only open about 20 days a year. So we'll be open for pickup at the lot at 7th Street near Highland or Camelback in Phoenix for about 6 or 7 days for citrus pickup toward the end of this month. And then we do the same thing for about 15 days in January for the deciduous. And we have all your supplies. We have the foliar feeds and the woody mulch and the planting mix and all the stuff you need, we have available for you to pick up. A lot of it is shippable. You know, we can ship some of the smaller things. Obviously, we can't ship compost or mulch, but that's easily available in your area. And I would really encourage you to buy local. If you buy a bag of planting mix that was bagged in Minnesota and you're in California, it's different microbes, it's different soil. So find a local grower of that stuff. And the way that we do this, Janice says, I'll tell you what, COVID was a godsend for us in streamlining our business, which was really cool. We used to, before COVID, we used to have people just open it up and they'd come down and wait. And there were times when people would wait 2 or 3 hours to get their trees picked up. And with COVID, we put everybody in schedules. So you pick a time, show up around your time, come and get your stuff. And things ran so much more smoothly. Thank you, Miss Janice.
Our tree crew really just kind of meshed everything together so perfectly.
Exactly.
I want to do major kudos, shout out to the people that show up and help us on lot. We've got some, the first person you see when you walk up to the gate is Tammy. Yay, Tammy is a phenomenal addition to our crew for several years now. She's the person who you greet at the gate, and she'll help you find your order, make sure your orders get together, and get us going with the process of getting you checked out. And then your order gets handed off to one of our tree crew. We've got probably about 6 or 8 people, depending on the day, that will process the orders and will find the right order. They'll work with you. We've got Raymond in the general store, who love him to pieces. He is he's a master gardener, has lots of experience growing things, can answer your questions, can help you find what you need. And then we've got our cashier. We've got Jordan and a few other people that may or not be there that will help process your order, make sure you get the best deals, let you know if there's any specials that you need. And then after you leave from Jordan, you sneak out the gate. You don't get sneak out. You get checked at the gate. Tammy, or I'm sorry, not Tammy, Lori, or whoever's working the gate that day will double check your order to make sure that if you ordered a Lisbon lime, you're getting a Lisbon lime. And if you, If you ordered a Lisbon lime, you're not getting a Lisbon lime.
Right.
If you ordered a Bear's lime, you get that Bear's lime. If you ordered a tropic snow peach, you're getting the tropic snow peach. And
Yeah.
get your order out the door quickly, because nothing's worse than getting home and figuring out you don't have the right tree or the right supplies. We don't do that. We had it happen. We've implemented a process that doesn't let it happen again. And this amazing, awesome tree crew, I love them so much. They are there for us, but they all are there because they care about the program and helping you. So yeah, awesome tree crew.
I want to read this, and then we're going to move on, and we'll take the rest of your questions. You can email me questions at greg@urbanfarm.org. You can also come to one of our other classes. But Tamara says, Greg had suggested the desert gold peach back when I was starting my tree planting. It is the most amazing peach tree. The fruit is so delicious, and the tree has been extremely prolific. Yeah, it is the single most amazing peach tree for the Valley of the Sun.
It is yummy. I love it too.
And I actually misspoke earlier. I said that we order 200 of them. We actually order 250 of them, because we get the standard size ones, and then we get the small ones for
sometimes,
for giveaways and such.
You know, we have a few trees we're already running out of, Greg. On the citrus. Lime. On the citrus, if there is something on the cart that you want and it's not there, we might have a few extras. I need to make sure that the truck gets here, and I need to count all of them and make sure that they actually get us quality ones. 90% of the time, 95% of the time, we get exactly what we're looking for, and everything goes great, and I can add some more stuff to the cart. But I don't want to have to come back to you later and say, I'm so sorry that tree didn't make it here. So we're having a little cushion. If you're looking for a tree and you absolutely want something that's not there, it's already sold out of the citrus, then check back with us after the 17th, 18th, and we'll see what's available.
Yeah. Amen.
But if it is there, grab it now before we run out.
All right. S. Craft wants to know, can I add azomite to my compost and process? You can absolutely do that. It will make it rock. So, all right. Are we ready to do the final video, Janice?
Yeah, I think that Tom's video is phenomenal, and anybody who hasn't seen it needs to watch it.
So stick around for that. In the meantime, backyard orchard culture is a very specific way to manage your trees small. And we are big proponents. That apple tree in my backyard wasn't a small apple tree. We highly suggest that you keep apple trees, peach trees, all your fruit trees, so you can harvest them from standing on the ground. And that's what we talk about with backyard orchard culture. Tom Spellman has been involved in the nursery business since 1973. At that time, he was a freshman in high school, and he rode his skateboard to work. Yay, Tom. Since then, he has worked at several different nurseries, including Nogales Nursery, where he learned landscape design, installation, irrigation, and construction. Armstrong Nursery, where he worked with hybridizers, growers on retail on the weekends. Laverne Nursery, which specializes in avocado, citrus, subtropical fruit trees, and grafted ornamentals, where he was the general manager for 20 years. And currently, he's been with the Southwestern sales manager for Dave Wilson Nursery, who I have been buying from since 1999. That's 23 years. My first tree order with them was 100 trees back in 1999. Dave Wilson Nursery is the largest grower of fruit, nut, and shade trees in the US. They grow 10.5 million plus trees per year. That number's changed because with the pandemic, they upped it. I know that it was closer to 20, and they ship wholesale worldwide. Over the past 20 years, Tom has done television, video, radio, written, conducted workshops, and lectured on the concepts of backyard orchard culture and fruit growing in general. Tom's dedication and passion for quality fruit has taken him to a dozen states in the US, as well as several countries around the globe, to consult and lecture on fruit trees and growing concepts. If you look on YouTube for Fruit Tube, that's Tom. So here's an interview that I did with him a couple of years ago on backyard orchard culture. And I want to thank everybody for sticking around till the end. And we'll see you soon. Welcome, welcome everybody. Greg Peterson coming to you from the Urban Farm in the heart of Phoenix, Arizona. And I'm really excited today. We have Tom Spellman. Tom is a longtime friend of mine, and he has been in the nursery industry for over 45 years and working for Dave Wilson Nursery for just coming up on his 20th anniversary. So welcome, Tom. Thank you for being here.
Oh, thank you for having me, Greg. It's always a pleasure to work with you on the projects. You know, you're such an inspiration to gardening in the desert. I just can't thank you enough for having me.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I always love our conversations. So you guys at Dave Wilson Nursery, somebody came up with a few years ago something called backyard orchard culture. And it's this whole methodology by which you plant and manage fruit trees. So that's what we're going to talk about today is backyard orchard culture. And let's just start with maybe a brief definition. What is it?
Backyard orchard culture is a concept, and it's not necessarily technique, because there are so many variables that people can use to gear things towards their own gardening projects and procedures. But basically for me, backyard orchard culture encompasses three different things. Number one, people should consider size controlling their trees to a size that's manageable for them. And I've been accused in the past of telling people that they should keep their trees to a specific size, but in fact, I've never done that. I've always told people, you need to decide what a manageable size is for you, and that's the size you should be willing to manage your tree at. And there's a lot of variables there, depending on when the fruit ripens, how long does the fruit hang on the tree. For example, for my purposes, if it's a stone fruit that's only going to ripen over a 2 or 3 or 4 week period, I want that tree at low enough so that I can reach every piece of fruit from the ground. I don't want to have to climb a ladder. I don't want to have to get out a pole pruner. I don't want to have to climb up in the tree anymore. So for me, a peach, a plum, a nectarine, an apricot is going to be a tree that I'm going to manage at about 7.5 or 8 feet. Now, for me, if it's something like an avocado, I have a totally different philosophy. That's a tree where I'm looking for more fruit, and I'm getting a much longer hang time. I'm not talking about 2 to 4 weeks. I'm talking about 2 to 4 to 6 or even 8 months. So for an avocado tree, I can easily manage it at 15 feet and go out with a 10-foot pole and a basket picker and get all the fruit I want on Sunday morning to use for the next 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 days. So I don't mind managing a 15-foot avocado tree. I'm not going to manage a 15-foot plum tree. But that again, that's everybody's individual decision. They need to decide what's manageable for them, choose a size, and accept the responsibility of managing the tree at that size. That's concept one.
Hold on, before you go past that. So sure. Avocados are non-starters here in the Valley.
I totally get that. So, I was just using it as an example.
I got it. But the same could be applied for citrus, though, correct?
Absolutely.
So
absolutely.
We can go 15,
lemons,
20.
Grapefruit.
Yeah.
Sure. Easily managed. And I do have a lemon tree that's about 12 feet and a couple of grapefruit and oranges and mandarins and things that are probably in that 10-foot range. So I totally think citrus are in that same category.
Got it. Perfect. Number two.
So number two is choose what you like and what you will use. You want varieties that are going to lend into your daily culinary lifestyle. You want things that you enjoy. And I've had examples over the years that people who have planted things and then decided 5 or 6 or 7 years down the road that wasn't really what they wanted. So now you've invested 5 years worth of time, 5 years worth of irrigation and management to decide that really isn't something that you wanted in the first place. So Sometimes you can graft that variety over to something else. More often than not, you're going to have to pull that whole tree and start with something fresh. So choose varieties that are adaptable to your area and your climate. If I was doing this lecture in your area, Phoenix, Arizona, we'd be talking about early season varieties. We'd be talking about things, stone fruits and palm fruits that don't hang on the tree late into the season because of your summer heat stress. But if I was doing this in Billings, Montana, I'd have a totally different perspective on what's going to ripen well and what's going to do well in the area. So you always want to make sure that you're taking climate adaptability into consideration for your varieties, geographic adaptability for your rootstock. You want rootstocks that are going to thrive in your soil and your climate as well. So I guess that's probably the second most important concept to backyard orchard culture is grow what you like and what you'll use, grow varieties that are adaptable to your climate and your geography.
Cool. And number 3?
So number 3 is pretty simple. You want to make sure that you are growing varieties that are successive ripening. A commercial grower, for example, would want to harvest all of this fruit at one time. They may be growing 50 acres of Legrand nectarines. So they're going to come in with people, trucks, trailers, equipment, ladders. They're going to pick all that fruit at one time, and they're going to send it to the wholesale market. They're going to wash it. They're going to grade it. They're going to pack it, and they're going to ship it all out, and the farmer gets his paycheck. That's what the commercial farmer is looking for, getting all that fruit ripe at one time. Now, a backyard grower, on the other hand, doesn't have a commercial expectation of what that tree is going to produce for them. But what they want is a little bit of fruit all the time. They want successive ripening throughout an extended season. So, and that again is going to vary greatly depending on the geographic area in the country. You know, in my area, I can harvest something out of my yard every day of the year. Probably in your area, under most conditions, you can do similar, but maybe not through that hottest part of summer when your physical stress is just a little bit too strong. And you know, most of those fruit varieties hanging on the tree aren't going to do well at 115 or 120 degrees. Right. So, you know, you do have kind of a period during that mid to late summer when you're probably not going to harvest a whole lot unless you're really, really able to protect it.
Right. Yeah. It's the
if I was growing again in Billings, Montana, I'm going to have a period from fall all through winter into spring where I'm not going to be able to harvest much of anything. It's just too cold. So completely different from your climate, but they're going to have a period of at least 6 months when they're not going to be able to harvest much of anything. So what you want to do is you want to choose varieties that, again, are adaptable to your geography and adaptable to your climate and get the most out of your backyard garden space. You want to be able to harvest as much as you can throughout the season that is adaptable for fruiting trees in your area.
So let's talk a little bit more about successive ripening while we're here. One of the bundles that we have available for peaches is the Desert Gold Peach, which is an amazing peach. And then in the middle, we have Tropic Snow or Soise Swirl. And then at the end of the successive ripening, we have the Mid-Pride Peach. So that's peaches for us about mid-May to the end of June.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So tell everybody, just explain what successive ripening means in layman's terms, let's say.
Well, one variety after another. You know, if you're going to grow peaches, you want to be able to harvest from the earliest part of the season to the latest part of the season that's adaptable to your geographic area. So for you, you're looking at early season varieties. You want early to mid-May to be your first variety. You want an early June variety or late May variety. You want that mid-June to late June variety. So with 3 different varieties in your area, you have 1.5 to 2 months worth of successive ripening peaches. So that's basically the concept right there. You want to be able to adapt into your area with varieties that'll give you fruit over an extended period of time. And in turn, you're not looking for a commercial expectation. A commercial grower of peaches in the San Joaquin Valley in California is expecting to get somewhere between 250 and 350 pounds of peaches off of each tree.
Wow.
So again, take into consideration a 2-week window for your harvest season, for your hang time. So how many people actually have use for 300 to 500 peaches in a 2 to 3 week period of time? Now, if you're a master preserver and you're going to either dehydrate or you're going to can, or you're gonna freeze fruit. I mean, you can absolutely extend out your season by doing some of those things, and maybe you want a big expectation of fruit. But if you're like me, basically what I do is eat fresh fruit. My wife's an attorney. She doesn't spend a lot of time in the kitchen. I like to go out and work on my trees and pick fruit and eat fruit out in the garden, bring some things into the house for the family, and that's good for me. So if I get 50 fruit or 75 fruit off of an individual variety over a 2 or 3 week period of time, that's enough for me, my family, and for me to be able to give some away. So, I don't think there seems to be this obsession with, how much fruit can I get, until people realize how much fruit they can get. Right. And at that point, it's like, what do I do with all this?
Yeah.
So don't be afraid to knock on your neighbor's door. Don't be afraid to donate some fruit to a local food bank. I actually have a group coming in this morning that will be picking 3/4 of the fruit on my Rio Red grapefruit tree. I can't, even with eating a couple, 2 or 3, 4 grapefruit a week, there's no way I can even make a dent in the amount of fruit that tree produces. So I give away 3/4 of it every year, along with a lot of the other fruit that I grow. So make sure make sure it's not going to waste. Make sure you're making good use of the fruit, whether it's donating it or whether it's, knocking on the neighbor's door or having your cousin come over and help to harvest, or preserving, canning, doing things like that. Because if you grow a large size tree or even a medium sized tree, you're probably going to have more fruit than you really know what to do with.
Right. Well, and a standard sized tree can easily be 20 feet in diameter and 20 feet tall, right?
If you let it, yes.
If we let it, exactly.
If you let it.
So what we're doing in backyard orchard cultures, we're doing something called high density planting. So that same space can house more trees. Can you talk more about that?
Absolutely. So you talked about your 3 varieties: Desert Gold, Saucy Swirl, or Tropic Snow, Mid Pride. All excellent varieties. They're going to give you that extended harvest. Now, if I was going to grow one commercial size tree and get that 250 to 350 pounds of fruit, I could expect to take up an area of probably somewhere between 3 and 4 or even 500 square feet.
Right.
But now let's consider this. I can take all 3 of those varieties, or 4 varieties, all 4 of those varieties, and I can plant them on close spacing in that same 3 to 4 or 500 square feet. So now I'm only using the footprint of one commercial sized tree, or even smaller than that, and I'm able to successively harvest out of that area these 3 or 4 varieties. So instead of getting all that fruit in 2 or 3 weeks out of the space of one tree, now I'm getting that fruit over a 1.5 or 2 months off that same footprint. So that's what high density planting is. And one of the other options that you'll often find are multi-budded trees, where they have those 3 or 4 or 5 varieties grafted onto one tree. And those are always going to be, for the most part, successive ripening combinations, so that you'll get that fruit over an extended period. I like multi-budded trees because we're the largest grower of multi-budded trees in the country, and I am a commissioned salesman, so they fit right into my lifestyle as far as a sales rep. But quite frankly, I really like the ability to be able to select the varieties that I want, and that means multi-planting. So you're putting those varieties that you've selected into that space that you've dedicated to it. The concept of multi-planting, to me, is really more appealing than a multi-grafted tree.
Well, and you can also plant these trees in interesting ways. So the trees that you're seeing in the picture and behind me, that's a peach hedge where I plant them like 5 or 6 feet apart. I've done that with citrus and mulberries as well. So talk about the different ways we can actually plant these trees.
Well, the sky's the limit. You know, this is not, again, this is not commercial agriculture. This is backyard orchard culture. And I don't really want my backyard to look like a commercial orchard.
Mm-hmm.
So I like the fact that we can now use fruit trees in other ways. We can use fruit trees for function in the yard. A hedge is a great example. You can grow a citrus hedge and put 10 varieties in 30 feet or 40 feet. And now you've got a screen, a functional hedge that you can use to block something or screen something. And you're also going to be able to harvest 10 varieties of fruit out of what you only really intended to be a hedge. So backyard orchard culture is kind of going out of the box. It's using things to your advantage in the landscape for form, for function, for beauty. Nothing is more beautiful or more fragrant than a citrus hedge when it's in bloom in the springtime, and you have varieties like Meyer lemon and things that will bloom for literally 6 to 8 months out of the year. Nothing to me is more beautiful than peaches in bloom in the springtime, the beautiful reds and the beautiful pinks, double flowers, you know, they'll give you bloom for 3 or 4 weeks, and that's spectacular. You know, I find myself bringing in sprigs off of my blooming peach trees in the springtime when they're in bloom, thinking, well, I've got 2 or 3 branches here and I need to thin it anyway, so I'm going to take 1 or 2 out of that fork and I'm going to bring those in and let my wife use them for a floral display in the house. I mean, it's a beautiful display. Consider fall colors. Even in your area, even in Phoenix, Arizona, when you have things like peaches and nectarines and apricots, you're going to get some decent fall color. Right. And that's absolutely beautiful. I mean, when you get those bright golden yellows and those oranges and even some varieties that go into reds and give you that fall color. So there's a lot of advantage of being able to use fruit trees, not only for fruit, but for form, for function, and for beauty in your landscape.
Gotta love that. And a big piece of backyard orchard culture is not being intimidated by pruning. And one of the things I want to talk about, so when the trees arrive to us in January from you guys, we have to prune them back a significant amount. And that has a tendency to freak people out. We're pruning their trees back significantly. And what I'd like for you to do is explain why it's important to prune them back, and then why it's important to continue to keep them pruned back.
The thing that you have to consider is when you're working with a bare root tree, like you are during the winter months, we're growing a 1-year tree or a 2-year tree, and we're trying to put some sort of a scaffold branching structure on it. And when we dig that tree, we're very limited as to the amount of root system that we can actually dig out of the ground. So more often than not, the root system that we're going to be able to harvest for those trees is going to be about 18 inches in diameter. Where when you look at the overall size of the tree, it might be 4 feet, 5 feet, 6 feet with a well-balanced feathered head on it. But now you have to take this into consideration. How much ability does that small root system have to actually push out the structure of that tree? So what you want to look for when you're growing a first-year bare root tree is you want to balance between the scaffold and the root system. So I'm going to make sure if I'm planting a bare root tree that's a 2-year tree that has scaffold branching on it, that I'm going to take that scaffolding structure back down to either the size of the root system that the tree is providing, or even more aggressive than that. If I'm going to plant a 1-year tree, which is what we would usually call a whip tree, it doesn't have much branching on it. It's just a rootstock, a graft, and a single stem that might go up 4, 5, 6 feet. So what I want to consider with a whip tree, with a 1-year tree, is where do I actually want it to begin to branch? And for backyard orchard culture purposes, we want a low branch tree. So on a whip tree, I'm going to prune that back down to about 18 inches to 24 inches above the graft. And I'm going to regrow my structure from that low point on the trunk. So there's this perception in the retail garden center business that bigger is better. Mm-hmm. So if I were to take a couple of whip trees and plant them up into a 5-gallon container, and I pruned 1 or 2 of them back down to 18 inches, and I left 1 or 2 of them at 4 feet or 5 feet or 6 feet tall, the average customer is going to come in and look at that tree and say, well, they're both the same price, so I'm going to take the bigger tree because the perception of value is there. I'm getting more for my money. When in fact, that's a misconception. With really what they're looking for is that low cut. They want that tree to be pruned down to a low structure so that they get a low scaffolding head that they can do most of their work, their pruning, their thinning, their harvest from standing on the ground. The bigger the tree, when you plant it, the growth is going to go straight up from that point. And now you are in the 2nd or 3rd year, if you haven't restructured the scaffolding or the scaffolding point on that tree, in the 3rd or 4th year, now you have a tree that's already too big. And so you want to make sure that you're, again, choosing that size. I want a 7.5-foot tree. So I'm going to make my first cut at 24 inches. I'm going to grow that structure out into midsummer. Now I've got another 2 or 3 feet of new growth. And during that midsummer first year, I'm going to take that growth in half again, and then allow that next flush of growth to come out. So by the end of the first season or the 2nd season, I now have a tree that's somewhere between 4 and 5 and 6 feet. I have a low scaffolding structure that I can easily work with. I have developed fruiting wood that I can start to harvest from the ground and do my work from the ground. And I'm growing that tree into a structure that will be manageable for me into the future. Now, going forward, you're going to accept the responsibility of keeping that tree pruned to your chosen size. So if I go out and stand next to my Santa Rosa plum tree and put my hand up in the air, about this time of the summer, I'm going to take the tree out at that size, 7.5 or 8 feet, and allow one more little flush of growth through the fall, and that's going to be my total fruiting structure for the next year.
Let's go back to planting the tree. If we plant a tree with too much top growth and not enough root support, what happens?
Well, one of 2 things is going to happen. Either you're going to get a very weak first season's growth, which means that you may get 2, 3, 4 inches of growth. You're going to get a lot of twig dieback if you haven't done a fair amount of reduction. So you're going to lose a fair amount of that scaffolding structure in the first year anyway. Or you may lose the whole tree. The root system may not have the ability or the stored nutrients or carbohydrates to be able to push out 6 feet of top growth. So what you're doing is you're making the tree's job for the spring and summer season easier. You're allowing it to do its work in a way where it can develop new root system and develop new structure at the same time. By not doing that reduction right up front, your ability to grow that low scaffolding head, low branching fruiting structure is greatly reduced. So what oftentimes happens is even if the tree does survive, you get all that growth up top, and now within that first couple of years, you have a tree that's way too big to manage. So after spending 2, 3, 4, 5 years growing that tree and realizing, hey, it's too big, now you have to go back and do the same thing that you would have started with in the first year and regrow that low structure. So it's a total waste of time. You want to make sure that you're doing that work up front, that you're allowing that, horticulturalist, professional nursery person to work with you on establishing that low scaffolding structure in the first year, always.
Yeah. Or we do it ourselves.
Absolutely. But unfortunately, there is this intimidation. People are, like you said, intimidated by pruning. And I get those calls and emails all the time. It's like, well, I just planted this tree and I really don't know what to do. It's a 1-year tree and it's only, half of an inch in caliper and it's 6 feet tall. And I'm like, cut it back to 18 or 24 inches. and people freak out. They don't want to do that. They're totally intimidated by making that cut, when that is by far the most important pruning decision you will ever make on that tree. Now, on the other hand, if you're buying a 2-year tree, if you're buying a tree that's established in a container, then you want to work with that existing structure. You don't want to cut it back to 18 inches and remove all that structure. So if you're buying a 2-year tree or an established container tree, you want to look for trees that have a low scaffolding structure, and that's what you're going to work with. That's where you're going to make that cut at 2 feet or 2.5 feet, and you're going to leave 3 or 4 or 5 well-spaced low scaffolding branches, and you're going to take 2/3 of that growth off the top.
Yeah, you heard it here, guys. 2/3 of that growth off the top.
2/3.
Really important. And we do this in the summertime, something called summertime pruning, right?
Well, I wouldn't do anything that dramatic in your area in the summertime. Okay. That's basically wintertime, determining the structure of what my tree is going to do in the future. In the summertime, you're going to work on an established tree, a tree that's already growing in your landscape, and you're going to do that summer pruning to strictly achieve size control. You're going to want to make sure that you bring that tree back down to that size that's manageable for you, and rejuvenate down to that size every summer going forward.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time today, Tom.
Greg, it's always a pleasure.
Welcome, everybody. Greg Peterson coming to you from the... Well, there you go. Bellman. Tom is a longtime friend of mine.
TW. There we go.
All right. Well, thank you all for those of you that stuck around to the end. We greatly appreciate it. Remember that you can get goodies on your orders if you place $150 or $350 orders. And yeah, we will be doing all of our other classes, urbanfarm.org/events, coming up over the course of the next 8 weeks, and like that. So thank you all very much. Make sure you get your order in this weekend to get your special offers. And great having you. This is another fruit tree program launched down. And so thank you all very much. And thanks, Janice, and thanks, TW on the back end. Have fun, and we'll talk to you soon. Email us if you need anything. Bye.